Chapter 46-38. Yiqing Luo, don't be complacent too early. She stared venomously at the two figures who were walking out of the room. She used all her energy to howl hysterically, as long as your heart is soft, Long Yunjian will definitely kill you. What kind of feeling is it to be killed by the person you trust the most? Ah. Yiqing Luo, you're just a pitiful worm. Did you think that you can make Long Yunjian return to your side to talk about brotherhood with you? No. Impossible. He has already been washed away by the secluded palace. He's now a chess piece who only listens to the arrangements of the secluded palace. Either you kill him or wait to be killed by him. You won't have any sense of guilt because he doesn't have a heart, he doesn't have a heart at all. Ren Jianying vented the anger in her heart. The intense pain from the witchcraft worm made her lose her rationality. She knew that Yiqing Luo valued Long Yunjian very much. She also knew, as long as Long Yunjian was mentioned, it was a thorn in Yiqing Luo's heart. And that person who had already walked out of the room stopped in his tracks following her words. Ren Jianying knew that her guess was indeed right. Her words had indeed pierced into Yiqing Luo's heart. As long as Yiqing Luo was in pain. As long as Yiqing Luo was in pain. No matter how much pain she was in, she could take it. Looking at Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian's harmonious and loving look, Ren Jianying only felt that it was a thorn in her eyes. On what basis could Yiqing Luo obtain the one and only love? To make the overlord dote on her so much. And she spent so much effort. But she couldn't get what she wanted. She had to force herself to climb from this man's bed to that man's bed. On what basis? She was obviously not worse than Yiqing Luo. Not any weaker than Yiqing Luo. Why was heaven so unfair? Giving her a second life but treating her in such a way. If her ending was like this, then why? Did she have to be reborn? Ren Jianying's heart was filled with resentment and anger. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something, and under the devouring of the witchcraft worm, her lips curled upwards. Yiqing Luo. Do you want to know why was Long Yunjian washed away all his feelings by the secluded palace? Do you want to know why Long Yunjian became a puppet? Ren Jianying burst out laughing. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo's reply, he directly gave his answer. You probably don't know that Long Yunjian likes you, right? A chess piece had developed feelings for his own mission target. Ah. What a joke. He likes you, and it's the kind of affection between a man and a woman. Bang. A gust of wind blew over. Diamo Xian's sleeves fluttered. The entire courtyard collapsed with a loud crash. Ren Jianying was engulfed in the collapsed building. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo grabbed Diamo Xian's arm and suppressed his agitation. Diamo Xian's brows were filled with viciousness. But when he lowered his eyes to look at the girl, the expression on his face quickly softened. However, even if it was a gentle expression, Yiqing Luo could tell. He was angry. Moreover, very angry. Yiqing Luo hugged him tightly as she rubbed against his chest and propped up her waist as she placed her forehead on his. Her motive is to disturb my heart, don't be angry. Her stupidity touched his face. How could Ajahn like me? This kind of lie, no one would believe it even if I told you. Chapter 46-39. He really likes you. Diamo Xian's voice was a little deep, and she could faintly hear the suppressed anger in it. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes as she used her forehead to knock against his forehead. Are you silly to actually believe what she said? I've known since a long time ago that he likes you. Diamo Xian held her hips, making her more comfortable in his arms. However, that pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes looked at her very seriously. So, I don't like you to be too close to him, and I don't like you to save him. Yiqing Luo. She was a little confused and couldn't wrap her head around it. Wait. Yiqing Luo shook her head. No, if Ajahn likes me, what does Ziqing count as? Ever since he Long and Yunjian met, she clearly sensed that the atmosphere between Long Yunjian and Tong Ziqing was obviously different. All that was left was for someone to speak up and break the ambiguous deadlock between them. Then they would be together officially. Why did it suddenly become Long Yunjian liking her? If Long Yunjian really likes Tong Ziqing, he wouldn't have made Tong Ziqing wait for him for so long. Diamo Xian's voice was a little cold. After finishing this sentence, he stared at Yiqing Luo. His eyes darkened. Under the dim light of the night, he appeared even more indescribably handsome. He suddenly lowered his head and bit the tip of the girl's nose. I'm jealous, he muttered. That aggrieved look was very much like that of a large canine pet. Yiqing Luo sighed. What's there to be jealous about, look at me? Till now I still don't know that Ajahn Might like me. You don't need to know. DMO Xian's tone became more serious, as if he was a pet fighting for attention. You only need to know that I love you. That's enough. This man was flirting again. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and pinched his face. All right, don't be in a hurry to be jealous, I'm afraid. We're in trouble. It was indeed troublesome. How could it not be troublesome? The two of them were so unbridled in the Ren family. Ren Jianying's voice and hysterical roar. In such a quiet night, how could it not attract the attention of others? Especially, earlier, DMO Xian had directly flipped Ren Jianying's courtyard. It caused such a huge sensation. The guards of the Ren residence and the people from the Dark Abyss Palace rushed over. DMO Xian's expression did not fluctuate, his deep eyes looked at her deeply. Coincidentally, I'm not in a good mood, these people came just in time. Yiqing Luo. A jealous man was really scary. The first elder came in a hurry. He hadn't even put his clothes on properly. Obviously, after tasting the sweetness from Ren Jianying, he returned to the base to rest in satisfaction. When he heard the commotion, he hurried over. On seeing Yiqing Luo and DMO Xian, Grand Elder's expression sunk. You too. His brows creased tightly as his gaze fell onto the necklace in Yiqing Luo's hand. Azure water chain. The Great Elder clenched his teeth and looked at the ruins. As expected of trash who can't do anything right. I told you that she would come to the Ren residence tonight, but you didn't believe me. A cold voice came from behind the first elder. Long Yunzhan's expression was cold. Under the night sky, his azure eyes were emotionless and cold. How would this elder know that what you said is true? The first elder's expression was ugly as he turned his head and looked at Long Yunzhan. You and that woman used to have such a good relationship, how would this elder believe you? Now do you believe me? Long Yunzhan shot a glance at him indifferently, without any ridicule or any other meaning. Latest update, no pop-up window please. Chapter 4640. Grand Elder's face turned black as he didn't continue talking to him. After Long Yunzhan appeared, Yiqing Luo's vision was fixed on him. Her eyes were sparkling like water waves as she stared at Long Yunzhan without blinking. Ever since Ren Jianying mentioned Long Yunzhan, she could still lie to herself. All these were fake. Ren Jianying intentionally mentioned it to agitate her. But now Long Yunzhan appeared personally. Personally said. He had indeed made use of her understanding of her to help Secluded Palace. Only Secluded Palace didn't appreciate it. She snorted lightly, and a cold mocking expression flashed across her face. You're not allowed to look at him. A large palm covered her eyes. A man's unhappy voice was heard. I'm very unhappy now. Earlier Yiqing Luo found out that Long Yunzhan liked her. Now Yiqing Luo was still staring at Long Yunzhan. Even if DMO Xian knew that his wife had no feelings for Long Yunzhan. But the moment Yiqing Luo's gaze looked over, he was unhappy. The young lady's long lashes slowly swept past DMO Xian's palm. Her hand covered his palm as she slowly moved it away. All right, I won't look anymore. Long Yunzhan, don't you want us to believe you? All right then. Now make a move on that woman and let me believe you. Grand Elder saw the young couple were still kissing each other and his expression instantly turned ugly. Long Yunzhan didn't say a word as he drew out the long sword in his hand. The blue profound glow was extremely dazzling in the quiet night. He held up his long sword as he walked towards Yiqing Luo step by step. Seeing Long Yunzhan's actions, Grand Elder couldn't help but burst out laughing. I love this kind of internecine drama the most, ha ha ha. In the day Long Yunzhan faced her with his sword. Now Long Yunzhan had once again used that sword which had once protected the World Group's brothers and aimed it at her. Even though she had many explanations for Long Yunzhan in her heart, and had thought of numerous reasons for him. But when it came to this situation, Yiqing Luo's heart couldn't help but feel dull pain. Stand properly. DMO Xian pulled her behind his back. His broad and tall figure blocked Yiqing Luo's line of sight. The man's entire body faintly emitted an oppressive profound energy. Yiqing Luo's little hand clutched his robes tightly as her gaze went past his body, looking at that expressionless Long Yunzhan. Don't kill him. DMO Xian did not speak. He leaped. The sleeves of his purple robe fluttered. She was like a proud and aloof purple lotus. Bang. The terrifying dark radiance engulfed the entire Ren residence. The ground cracked open and the buildings collapsed layer by layer. The surroundings were filled with screams. Immediately after, the man moved and appeared in front of Long Yunzhan. He moved his palm and countless dark force wrapped around Long Yunzhan like silk threads. Long Yunzhan reacted quickly and slashed with his saber. It actually withstood a wave of Dimo Xian's attack. A shocking profound light lingered in the sky. Yiqing Luo's eyes were fixated on Dimo Xian's body without blinking, as her heart started to palpitate uneasily. She could tell. Dimo Xian was really angry. These Ren residence's guards and secluded palaces people had all become Dimo Xian's tools to vent his anger. Watching Dimo Xian and Long Yunzhan cross hands, Yiqing Luo was still worried that Dimo Xian would injure Long Yunzhan seriously because he had injured her. Her attention was focused on Dimo Xian and Long Yunzhan. She hadn't noticed that a figure behind her was silently approaching her. Chapter 46-41. Until Yiqing Luo's ears twitched. She vaguely heard something amiss in the wind. As soon as he turned around, he saw the great elder's extremely terrifying face. Seeing Yiqing Luo's reaction, he laughed sinisterly. Yiqing Luo, be good and take a nap in case you suffer. Following Grand Elder's words, his black robe moved. What met her was a ball of thick black yin qi. Yiqing Luo immediately evaded. But Grand Elder's fingers were like eagle claws as he swiftly locked onto her shoulder. And just as Grand Elder was closing in on Yiqing Luo, Lil Luo, Dimo Xian's eyes turned sharp as he raised his palm towards Long Yunzhan's chest, speedily heading towards Yiqing Luo's direction. It was thrilling and dangerous at this critical moment. Not waiting for the crowd to react, a figure appeared in midair in the direction where Yiqing Luo had retreated. Yiqing Luo directly crashed into that person's arms. Elegant plum fragrance with a hint of coldness poured down. Yiqing Luo subconsciously wanted to leave that person's arms. That person's long arms suddenly exerted strength as he locked her waist tightly, pressing her tightly into his arms. Yiqing Luo couldn't struggle free. Following that, an irresistible profound ray rippled out from that person's sleeves. The two figures disappeared from the Ren residence. Damn it! The great elder gritted his teeth and cursed. This sudden interruption had snatched away the prey that was already in his hands. Lil Luo, Dimo Xian's eyes were filled with frost. The coldness between his brows seemed to be able to condense the surrounding air into frost. His frozen gaze looked towards Long Yunzhan. You'd better pray that he won't hurt Lil Luo, or otherwise. Even if Lil Luo, speaks up for you, this lord will not be lenient. Earlier, he was able to rush to Yiqing Luo's side in time. He waved that palm. Long Yunzhan could totally avoid it. But Long Yunzhan didn't avoid it. Instead, he took the initiative to meet him. And it was that action that made Dimo Xian pause for a moment. And it was that moment. When he rushed towards Yiqing Luo, he was a step too late. He could only watch Yiqing Luo being taken away by someone. Long Yunzhan didn't respond to Dimo Xian's words. A pair of azure blue eyes stared unblinkingly at the direction where Yiqing Luo had disappeared to. In his eyes, one could vaguely see a deep meaning that couldn't be dispelled. Yiqing Luo was held tightly in someone's arms. Until his feet touched the ground. That person still had no intention of letting go. He held her tightly in his arms. He greedily absorbed her scent. After struggling to no avail, Yiqing Luo's expression turned uglier and uglier. She simply stopped struggling and said coldly, Zhu Wuxin, if you don't let go, don't blame me for using poison. His voice was cold and emotionless. The person who was hugging her stiffened. Little by little, he loosened his grip on her waist. Yiqing Luo left his embrace and took 2 steps back before she slowly raised her head to look at him. The man in front of him was dressed in a fiery red robe, and his black hair draped over his shoulders. There wasn't much emotion on his cold and handsome face. A pair of icy cold eyes stared at her without blinking. There were too many emotions beneath his eyes which Yiqing Luo couldn't understand, and didn't want to understand. What are you doing? Yiqing Luo looked at him as she asked. The man in front of her, on that icy cold face, slowly surfaced a different expression. He looked at Yiqing Luo as he said word by word, I miss you. Miss her. Miss her very much. Ever since they parted the last time. He restrained himself and didn't look for her again. But he couldn't help but miss her. Chapter 46-42. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A deafening explosion sound reverberated through the entire space. In the space, profound waves surged as though a monstrous huge wave, wave after wave, crazily attacking. Even the sky had turned into an extremely oppressive deep black. The aura crazily entangled, swallowing Yiqing Luo entirely. Yiqing Luo. This scene made the palace lord's pupils abruptly widen, as he screamed out Yiqing Luo's name hoarsely. He wanted to dash towards the side where the profound energy was surging. But his path was completely blocked by the Linglong Palace's disciples. Get lost. Get lost. The palace lord of the Linglong Palace bellowed furiously. The overbearing energy crazily sent the people who were blocking in front of him flying. But there were still numerous female disciples who came forward wave after wave. Under the black robe, that pair of gloomy and sullen eyes overflowed with large black threads. If he wasn't shrouded in the black robe, then everyone could see. That pair of eyes was like a densely packed spider web with numerous black threads. Those black threads, bit by bit, lingered in his pupils. Boundless evil chi overflowed from the palace lord of the Linglong Palace. That piece after piece, like a thin fog, the evil chi speedily spread in all directions. Everywhere it went. Those Linglong Palace's female disciples who were flocking towards him, all had a huge change in expression. Immediately following that, the expression on their faces started to turn sinister. One by one they tore each other apart, tangling together. She realized that the evil chi which spread out was not right. Linglong Palace Lord's expression changed slightly, as she speedily retreated a few steps. She waved her sleeve. A transparent barrier blocked in front of her. It blocked off all the evil energy that was spreading over. But she had avoided the evil chi. But those female disciples who were guarding the surroundings were all affected by the evil chi. The method of killing each other was extremely vicious. Just a moment later, the entire space was filled with a thick blood stench. Blood also dyed the ground red. This scene made Linglong Palace Lord's expression sunk. She raised her voice, "Wake this palace lord up. What do you all look like? It was so easy for him to be attracted by my mind." However, no one heard her voice. Without these obstacles in the way, he would not be able to stop them. The palace lord of Ethereal Palace immediately rushed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. In the meantime, earlier that wave of boundless energy which had engulfed Yiqing Luo suddenly exploded with an extremely dense and intense aura. Bang! There was a loud noise. A fiery red shadow flashed past in front of his eyes. It was really fiery red. It was like a flame, dazzling and dazzling. That red was blinding for an instant. The surrounding air seemed to become extremely hot as a result. The surging heat and the blazing heat roasted everything around it. The ground was littered with corpses, and the smell of dried meat emanated from them. Many female disciples were affected by the evil energy. Like a wild beast, he opened his mouth and began to tear at his opponent's flesh. It was an extremely bloody and cruel scene. The first judicial judge and the third judicial judge's relaxed faces immediately tensed up. He immediately raised his head and looked in the direction of the fiery red shadow. His entire body instantly froze. That is, it was a giant bird that was entirely red in color. Its phoenix feathers were like flames, overflowing with brilliance and vibrant colors. As it spread its wings, there were rays of light flowing, extremely dazzling. Vermilion bird. One of the 4 sacred beasts, Vermilion bird sacred beast. Update completed. Wow. Tomorrow the Overlord will make a dazzling appearance, thanks to Disaster, 8 100 book coins. Say goodbye with a smile, 588, 4100, book coins, do Jewish reward love you all. End of this chapter. 97. Chapter 46-43. He shut his eyes hard, but if I was given another chance I would still make the same choice. Because the days when he imprisoned her, it was his most beautiful memory. And that was also his way of protecting her. Yiqing Luo's pink lips pursed even tighter. Zhuwu Xen, you're still like this until now. She turned around and the gaze she shot at him was filled with disappointment. Zhuwu Xen was shrouded in a gloomy atmosphere. His jet black hair hung down as it floated in the wind. His perfect side profile didn't have much emotion, but it made one feel the pain in his heart. Don't follow me anymore. Yiqing Luo said calmly, I will not forgive you for what happened the last time. Saying that, she turned around and left. Behind her, Zhuwu Xen didn't follow her. Only Yiqing Luo could feel that his burning gaze was following her closely, until her figure disappeared around the corner. Yiqing Luo sighed deeply. She really didn't like to torment these complicated feelings. To her, if she liked someone, then they should be together. If the other party didn't like her, then she wouldn't disturb the other party. Pestering and using unyielding methods with an unusual stubbornness. It would only make the other party feel even more disgusted, wouldn't it? Zhuwu Xan was much more stubborn than Gu Jingyu. Yiqing Luo rubbed her forehead. Her head was a little big. She'd better hurry back to the Ren residence. Xian would definitely go crazy looking for her. Yiqing Luo's figure swiftly wandered in the deep alley. But after walking for a distance, Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks as she frowned slightly and looked behind her. Zhu Wuxin? She sensed that someone had been following her. Silence for a moment. Only then did a figure slowly walk out from the darkness. It was a slender figure. She was dressed in a long flowing dress, which made her look conspicuous and eye-catching. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she looked at her in astonishment. It's you? The lady slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo. Her eyes met with Yiqing Luo's. Why are you? Yiqing Luo pursed her lips as she was slightly astonished. Group leader Su. The person in front of her was the group leader of the third mercenary group which she met in the Earth Realm, and also Gu Zixi group leader, Su Qingbing. Why was she here? I want to talk to you about Wuxin. Su Qingbing's voice was calm, but the emotions in her eyes revealed her thoughts. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered and nodded after some time. All right. The two of them leaned against the wall. I'm not trying to persuade you to be with Wuxin. Su Qingbing tilted her head to look at her and smiled. I like Wuxin. She was very calm and naturally admitted her feelings for Zhu Wuxin. My obsession with him is the same as his obsession with you. So, I won't give up the chance to be with him. Su Qingbing withdrew her gaze and slowly raised her head to look at the narrow sky in the long alley. Then what do you want to discuss with me about him? Yiqing Luo admired this kind of lady. Love is open. Su Qingbing chuckled. If possible, I hope you can forgive him. Everything he has done is because he cares about you. He has never known what love is. Even when Ache and I are by his side, we have never felt any warmth from him. He totally doesn't know how to love and doesn't know any feelings. Perhaps everything he has done has caused harm to you, but those, his original intention, were all for you. Su Qingbing lowered her head again. The reason why he imprisoned you the last time was actually because. Chapter 46-44. I know. Yiqing Luo turned her body sideways and placed her hand on her shoulder. Sure enough, she felt the woman's delicate body trembling slightly. In fact, after saying these words, Su Qingbing's heart felt even more uncomfortable. Anyone who faced their love rival and spoke up for their beloved, hoping that the love rival could forgive their beloved. Her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Leader Su, I know he trapped me there, because my profound jade heart's secret was exposed. Yiqing Luo patted her shoulder lightly. He wanted to protect me. You know. Su Qingbing pursed her lips tightly, her eyes looked at her without blinking. Since you know why. Knowing is one thing, but being able to accept it is another. Yiqing Luo let go of her shoulder and leaned against the wall again, raising her head to look at the sky. This matter concerns me, he should tell me everything, and whether to accept his arrangement is my decision. Do you know why I like Xian? She tilted her head and looked at Su Qingbing. Su Qingbing's pupils contracted slightly. Why? She was also very curious. Why would a free and unrestrained woman like Yiqing Luo choose a man like the Overlord? Based on Yiqing Luo's character, she was definitely not the kind of person who would be together with the Overlord because of his status, even if they didn't meet many times. But Su Qingbing could see it. The relationship between Yiqing Luo and the Overlord. No one could step in. That kind of sincerity made one envious. Yiqing Luo lightly hooked her lips, because Xian understands. Everything is based on my wishes. When mentioning DMO Xian, Yiqing Luo's expression was obviously much gentler. Her pink lips lightly hooked, her eyes filled with a faint smile. Whatever I want to do, Xian will support me unconditionally. As long as I want, he will definitely agree. I want to grow, so he suppressed his worry for me and let me fight alone. I want to become stronger, so he used his own way to help me, but never interfered in any of my matters. My decision, no matter how unbelievable, he will accompany me and complete it with me. When Yiqing Luo said this, she paused slightly. The smile and gentleness on his face became even more pronounced. Xian is not the kind of person who cares about other people's feelings, nor is he the kind of person who will compromise. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly as she looked at Su Qingbing. Actually, the previous Xian and Zhu Wuxin should be considered as the same kind of person. But Xian is willing to change for me and compromise for me? Su Qingbing stared at her blankly. Some kind of emotion was surging in his eyes. But Zhu Wuxin is different. Yiqing Luo smiled as she opened her mouth. He's too stubborn, too stubborn. Towards me, is it because of his past possessiveness or because he really loves me? I'm afraid even he himself isn't sure, right? Su Qingbing pursed her lips and looked at her firmly. No. He loves you, Wuxin, he absolutely loves you. Yiqing Luo smiled. No matter if it's love or possessiveness, to me, it's too heavy. Zhu Wuxin has never cared about my wishes. He only uses his own thoughts to impose on me, deciding everything about me. To him, he probably only wants a canary which he can control in his palm. A canary who will only follow by his side, who only has him in her eyes and heart. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-45. Su Qingbing was speechless. What Yiqing Luo said was indeed so. Zhu Wuxian was a stubborn and overbearing person. Whatever he had his eyes on must belong to him. Whatever he wanted must belong to him. This kind of possessiveness and overbearingness made one suffocated. After some time, Su Qingbing finally found a chance as she spoke out in a hoarse voice. But if you don't give him a chance, how do you know that he isn't willing to change for you? If you are able to forgive Wu Xian, he will definitely be willing to change for you. Su Qingbing thought of this period of time. Zhu Wuxian had completely changed into a different person because of Yiqing Luo. She had never seen Zhu Wuxian who lost control. But as long as it concerned Yiqing Luo, Zhu Wuxian seemed to have changed into another person. So, it wasn't that Zhu Wuxian wasn't willing to change. But Yiqing Luo didn't give him that chance. Because I don't like him. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she continued, because I love Xian, so I will not give Zhu Wuxian any chance. Su Qingbing was speechless once again. Since you like Zhu Wuxian so much, then work hard and walk into his heart and not here. To convince me to accept Zhu Wuxian. Yiqing Luo smiled at her. All of you don't need to follow me anymore. This is a matter between me and the Palace of Darkness. Since Zhu Wuxian had worked together with the Palace of Darkness, then don't interfere in this matter. I'm not asking you to accept him. At this moment, Su Qingbing's expression was completely different from the leader who killed decisively and cleanly in front of the bloody mercenaries' members. Her face was filled with anxiety, anxious to convince Yiqing Luo. I'm hoping that you can forgive him for what he had done to you previously. Su Qingbing took a step back and bowed to her. Yiqing Luo, since you already know the real reason why Wu Xian did what he did, can you please forgive him on account that he did it because he cared about you. That's why he did the wrong thing. Yiqing Luo didn't reply. Su Qingbing was feeling apprehensive. Ever since you left Wu Xian, he seemed to have changed into another person. The him now really isn't like him. I can tell that he has been wanting to apologize to you. The lady's voice was very soft. It sounded like a plea. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change and her tone was indifferent. Leader Su, there's no need to say any more. With that, she turned around and walked away. Su Qingbing wanted to stop her. But when he saw the girl's back without hesitation, he felt a chill run down his spine. He swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. She had read countless people and naturally could tell Yiqing Luo's character. Since Yiqing Luo had already decided on something, no matter how she persuaded her, it would be of no use. Yiqing Luo would never forgive Zhu Wuxian. That was unforgivable. What should she think of now to persuade Zhu Wuxin? Su Qingbing faintly sighed, turned around and walked in the direction of Zhu Wuxin. As soon as he turned around, he saw a figure dressed in a fiery robe standing in the shadows. The man leaned against the wall. He was shrouded in a layer of shadow. It seemed to be lingering with deep sorrow and loss. Su Qingbing's lips moved. Wu Wuxian, when did Zhu Wuxin stand there? How much did he actually listen to? The moment she opened her mouth, the man who was leaning against the wall suddenly swayed. As though he had lost his supporting strength, he suddenly fell limply onto the ground. Su Qingbing rushed over anxiously and immediately supported Zhu Wuxin. Wu Wuxian, are you all right? Chapter 46-46. Zhu Wuxian lowered his head, not saying a single word, as though he had sealed himself in his own world. Su Qingbing squatted beside him, her slender fingers clasped tightly onto his arm. How much did you hear? Zhu Wuxian had a reaction. His thick eyelashes trembled slightly. His cold gaze fell onto her, all of it. Su Qingbing was stunned by that cold gaze for a moment, as the hand which was holding onto his arm tightened. Then you? She knows I'm beside her. Zhu Wuxian seemed as though he hadn't heard Su Qingbing's words as he muttered to himself. That pair of icy cold eyes looked ahead without any focus. Right from the start. She knew I was beside her. Her words were intentionally said for me to hear. The man's voice was very low, every word and sentence low and flustered. Su Qingbing didn't know how to comfort him. Or perhaps the current Zhu Wu Xan totally couldn't hear a single word. Yiqing Luo, who had left without any hesitation, stopped at the corner. She stood at the corner, taking a look at Zhu Wu Xian and Su Qingbing's direction. Seeing Zhu Wu Xian sitting on the ground, not knowing what he was thinking, Yiqing Luo sighed. But in the end she left without turning back. She didn't know where Zhu Wu Xian had brought her to. The surroundings were filled with buildings and long alleys. But the environment was unfamiliar. It didn't seem like she was in the old city. Yiqing Luo leapt onto a wall, taking in the surrounding terrain into her eyes. Her gaze suddenly fixed on a certain place. That was an extremely luxurious and spacious mansion. What attracted Yiqing Luo's attention wasn't the luxurious degree of that mansion, but she saw a black-robed old lady squatting there in a courtyard. The old lady's body was encircled by an extremely dense profound yin qi. That was the qi which came from the Nether Palace. Towards this kind of yin qi, Yiqing Luo was the most sensitive. The profound yin qi on this old lady was on par with that grand elder. Someone from the Nether Palace? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly, as she concealed her qi, as her figure moved swiftly. She stealthily approached the courtyard on the other side. There was no profound qi fluctuation in the surroundings. What was this old lady from the Palace of Darkness doing here? It was until they got nearer to the courtyard, when Yiqing Luo could faintly hear the complicated and strange words coming out from the old lady's mouth. Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. The old woman muttered to herself for a long time. Only then did he stop. Very soon, a handsome young man dressed in the uniform of the Palace of Darkness walked over with a wet soft cloth. He half squatted beside the old woman and wiped her sweat. The man's voice was filled with flattery. "Venerable Wu, is your witchcraft a success?" As the man spoke, his body was almost pressed against the old woman's. The old woman moved her hand and pulled the man into her arms. "You want to know?" The old lady's voice was extremely ear-piercing and hoarse. Anyone who heard it couldn't help but feel their hair stand on end. The man had clearly been by the old woman's side for a long time. His words were filled with conforming to the old woman. "I just want to know if you can spend more time with me after the witch goo succeeds." The old woman laughed sinisterly. She lowered her head to that young man's mouth, as she fiercely spat a mouthful of saliva. "You only know how to please me. This thing has succeeded." The old woman pulled the man away from her arms and immediately stood up. Chapter 46-47. The old lady stood up. Yiqing Luo saw a huge basin placed in front of the old lady. That basin seemed to be made of silver. But on a closer look, it seemed to be made of other materials. Streaks of dark flowing light could be seen above it. And that basin was crawling with densely packed goo worms. The goo worms were black in color, and were overflowing with dense profound yin qi. The most shocking thing was that densely packed goo worms crawled all over the basin, but none of them crawled out of that basin. This batch of witchcraft is considered to be successful, but we need to find a few more people to test the effects of this witchcraft, the old lady said in a sharp voice. The young man's expression changed slightly as he immediately stuck close to the old lady. "Then, shall I bring those people over for Old Witch to test the witchcraft?" The old lady touched his face. "Don't be so anxious, Grandma likes you so much. How would I bear to use you to test the witchcraft?" The young man gave a flattering smile. But in his eyes, there was an unconcealable fear. The old lady let go of him as she waved her hand. Go, bring them out and test the effect of my witchcraft." The young man immediately walked out of the courtyard. The conversation between the two. Yiqing Luo had heard everything. Her eyes sunk slightly as her brows creased tightly. Old witchcraft? Could it be that this old lady was the person from the witchcraft aristocratic family invited by the Palace of Darkness? That was the person who poisoned Long Yunjian. She couldn't understand the string of words just now at all. She was refining witchcraft, right? This old lady refining this batch of witchcraft. What was she trying to do for the Palace of Darkness? What motive did the Palace of Darkness have? After a while, the young man brought 5 young girls with him. The young ladies' eyes were filled with fear as their mouths were gagged as they struggled and whimpered. The old lady stretched out her hand as she grabbed one of the young ladies. That young lady's eyes widened in fear. The old lady held onto the young lady's chin as she pulled her in front of her. A twisted expression surfaced on her sinister face. What a young and beautiful young lady. This face is so glaring. She laughed sinisterly. Seeing the fear in the young lady's eyes, she laughed even more crazily. I don't know if you'll be able to keep your beautiful face after the witchcraft is cast. Ja. Ja ja ja. The old woman laughed sinisterly and picked up a goo worm from the basin. The goo worm quickly crawled into the little girl's body. In the blink of an eye, the little girl rolled off the old woman's hand and onto the ground. At a speed visible to the naked eye, his body was covered with layers of black spots. The little girl screamed miserably on the ground. Soon, the little girl's appearance had changed beyond recognition. The old woman smiled as she watched. Her face was filled with pride and satisfaction from controlling their lives. The little girl screamed and the other girls shrank back in fear. Their eyes were filled with fear and pleading. Suddenly the little girl stopped screaming. Suddenly he stood up straight from the ground. Ah! The sound that came out of the little girl's mouth was no longer that of a woman's scream. Instead it sounded like a beast's roar. The little girl clenched her fists and shouted desperately. His hands were also hammering the ground. In a split second, countless cracks appeared on the ground. Its destructive power was extremely strong. Yiqing Luo had witnessed this entire scene. From her angle she could clearly see. The little girl's body was covered with large patches of black spots, but they weren't black spots at all. But from that goo worm in her body, it had spawned one after another little goo worms. Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 46-48. Those little goo worms were controlling the young lady's body. An extremely destructive power. It wasn't the young lady's power, but the power of those little goo worms. Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly. What was the secluded darkness palace trying to do by letting the people from the witchcraft family refine this kind of witchcraft? One witchcraft worm was able to control one person. This huge basin of witchcraft worm, didn't it mean to turn thousands of cultivators into monsters controlled by witchcraft worms? Yiqing Luo stared at that young lady who was desperately letting out beastly cries of, ah ah. The entire courtyard was smashed into pieces by that young lady, collapsing in all sorts of ways. The young ladies who were tied up by the side were so frightened that they whimpered in fear. That young man looked at the young lady's destructive power as his brows were filled with smiles. Congratulations, Elder Wu, your witchcraft worm has finally succeeded. The old lady stared at that young lady who had lost control as she squinted her malicious eyes slightly. Suddenly her 5 fingers moved. That young lady instantly stopped her destructive actions. Her mouth was letting out a painful cry. Following that, she fell onto the ground in pain. The densely packed little goo worms started to wriggle wantonly in the young lady's body. Not long later, the young lady was left with a pile of ghastly white bones. At the same time, the densely packed little goo worms on the young lady's body also disappeared. The young ladies by the side widened their eyes as tears of terror flowed down. Looking at that pile of ghastly white bones, the young man's smile froze as he hurriedly softened his tone. Elder Wu, this is still not enough. Elder Wu slowly turned around as he looked at the witchcraft worm in the basin. The power is too weak and the duration is too short. It's useless. The young man's tone was slightly anxious. Elder Wu, this witchcraft worm's power is already very strong and it hasn't reached the last moment of control, so how can you be sure that the duration is not long enough? Elder Wu, you try again. Elder Wu's malicious eyes suddenly fixed onto that young man as his lips curled into a sneer. Why? You're very anxious? No. I'm not. The young man realized that he had lost his composure as he hurriedly put on a flattering smile. I'm just worried that Elder Wu will be tired. You've worked hard for such a long time, and if this batch doesn't work, you'll have to work hard for a long time. The young man's voice was extremely gentle, and there was a hint of coquettishness in it. Elder Wu's furrowed brows relaxed. All right, don't try to coax me. Bring these people away. I want to see what the problem is with this goo. The young man hesitantly looked at the big pot of witchcraft insects. In the end, she pursed her lips and dragged the little girls out of the courtyard. Venerable Wu returned to the side of the basin and extended his hand into the basin. Witchcraft goo immediately crawled all over Venerable Wu's hand. Venerable Wu frowned and sized up the witchcraft venom on his hands in confusion. He muttered to himself, where exactly is the problem? Why can't these witchcraft venomous insects control the human body? Controlling the human body? Yiqing Luo heard old Wu's words and roughly understood what old Wu meant by the effect wasn't enough. Elder Wu wanted to use these witchcraft insects to completely control a person. To control it like a person. He was no different from his usual self. However, when the witchcraft goo entered the little girl's body, the little girl's entire state was totally like a wild beast. To be more accurate, Old Wu's motive was to make use of the witchcraft insects to create puppets. Chapter 46-49. Previously, didn't the Palace of Darkness use the forbidden curse to create a batch of undead puppets? Why did they still need the witchcraft family's witchcraft master to create puppets? If she didn't guess wrongly, that young man earlier should be the one who was placed beside Venerable Wu. His motive was to urge Venerable Wu to complete the witchcraft. From that young man's anxious look, he should be someone from the Palace of Darkness, urging them anxiously. Yiqing Luo muttered to herself for a moment. Using the teleportation secret technique, he quietly disappeared from the courtyard. She followed the young man's trail. The young man dragged a few young ladies and threw them into the house in the neighboring courtyard. Just as she got nearer, Yiqing Luo heard a lady's woo 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 sounds coming from the entire house. Apparently, these were the young ladies used to test the spell. After the young man threw the few of them into the house, he locked the door and quietly walked towards another corner. The man's expression was cautious, as though he was afraid that the old lady would see him. He kept a close eye on his back in case anyone suddenly appeared. He reached that corner. The man knocked on the wall. Very quickly, a black-cloaked man from the Palace of Darkness appeared in front of the man. The man lowered his voice. Venerable Wu's witchcraft has failed and needs to be refined again. That black-cloaked man was slightly displeased. Need to delay again? His lordship is rather anxious. If it is delayed any longer, I'm afraid his lordship will be angry. The young man pursed his lips tightly as his face was filled with fear towards his lordship. I know his lordship is anxious, but Venerable Wu's character, his lordship should know that if it is not to her satisfaction, she will refine it again and again. The black-cloaked man's tone changed as he spoke in an unquestionable tone. No matter what, within 3 days you must let me show you the results. The young man revealed a bitter expression. With Venerable Wu's character, how can we urge her? Don't you know how to please her? At most, we'll just convince her on the bed. The black-cloaked man sneered as though he was disdainful. Following that, the cloak shook. Then it disappeared before the young man's eyes. The young man's expression was distressed, as he clenched his fists in anger and frustration, as he punched the wall hard, until he calmed down the anger in his heart. Only then did the young man adjust the expression on his face and once again headed towards the Magus Elder's courtyard. Yiqing Luo didn't follow up. The entire courtyard fell silent. Only then did she slowly appear and walk towards the room where the little girls were locked up. The room was filled with the sounds of women moaning and banging things. She glanced in the direction of the Venerable Wu and entered the house. There was not a single piece of furniture in the room, only a pile of young and beautiful women. After she entered the room, the women all looked at her in shock. When he found out that she wasn't tied up and there was nothing in her mouth, he felt a chill run down his spine. All of them wriggled their bodies and stared at her with widened eyes. It seemed to be asking for help. Yiqing Luo made a hush sound at them and grabbed the nearest lady, speaking in a low voice. I can save you, but you must cooperate. All the women nodded vigorously. Yiqing Luo's voice was deep as she said word by word. No matter how afraid you are, you'd better keep your mouth shut. If those people outside find out that you're trying to escape, you should be very clear about the consequences. Fear appeared in the eyes of the women as they nodded vigorously. Chapter 46-50. Yiqing Luo removed the cloth from the lady's mouth. How did you get caught and brought here? Do you know the person who caught you? The lady's tears flowed down as she sobbed. We were caught, we don't know that man. What do you know? Yiqing Luo couldn't hear the lady sobbing clearly. Don't waste time on meaningless crying. If you want to escape safely, then make the best use of your time. Don't waste time. Whoever knows the situation, speak up now. Yiqing Luo's voice was filled with an indescribable majesty. It made all the ladies in the room so stunned that their sobbing became much softer, until a lady whimpered as she moved towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo dropped the lady in her hands and walked towards that lady. She removed the cloth from the lady's mouth. What do you want to say? This lady was slightly different from the other ladies. The other ladies were crying till their eyes turned red. But this lady's eyelashes weren't wet at all. It wasn't fear in her eyes but hatred. We are all experimental subjects. The lady gritted her teeth and said, the person outside is Elder Wu from the witchcraft family. Rather than saying she is from the witchcraft family, you might as well say she was abandoned by them. Yiqing Luo roughly understood the lady's concise and comprehensive words. This lady's name was Wuxia. Yes, her surname was Wu and she was also from the witchcraft family. But she was different from Elder Wu. Venerable Magus had once been chased out of the witchcraft family by the patriarch of the witchcraft family for refining a forbidden witchcraft goo. He was ordered to never step into the witchcraft family ever again. And Elder Wu, who was chased out of the witchcraft family, didn't feel that he was in the wrong. She joined the Nether Palace and used witchcraft to help the Nether Palace to do many harmful things. Hence, Wuxia, the daughter of the witchcraft family's leader, left the witchcraft family to help them clean up the mess. But unexpectedly she was caught by Elder Wu. She was the first one who was caught in the room. Elder Wu and that young man had no intention to let her off. When the both of them were conversing, they had never avoided her. So Wuxia found out from their conversation. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness needed the shaman elder to refine a batch of puppets that could be controlled. Furthermore, they had to be extremely strong and destructive. Therefore, Elder Wu used witchcraft and started to refine the forbidden witchcraft. After the refinement, he needed a group of people to test the goo. Thus, young and beautiful girls were captured and used as goo test subjects. After listening to Wu Chei's explanation, Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Since you're all test subjects, why? Are you still alive? Wu Chei was the first person to be captured and brought into the room, but he was still alive. Wu Chei shook his head. I don't know either. Perhaps I still have some value that can be used? Finishing her words, her hands clenched into fists as she looked at Yiqing Luo with eyes filled with hope. Can you save everyone? As long as everyone leaves this place safely, I represent the witchcraft family to thank you for your life-saving grace. The entire room of ladies, upon hearing this sentence, were all touched and filled with hope as they looked at Yiqing Luo, crying out woo woo. Yiqing Luo looked around the room. There were about 30 or so women. If he wanted to save them all, it might be a little difficult. Everyone is a cultivator, so the chances of us escaping together is very high. Wu Chei seemed to have seen through Yiqing Luo's thoughts. I still have quite a number of witchcraft on me. If Elder Wu and the rest want to stop us, I can deal with him. Chapter 46-51. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips slightly as her long and narrow eyes seemed to be rippling with a faint glow. She didn't make a sound. But the ladies by the side were all panicking. One by one they looked at Yiqing Luo pleadingly, anxiously trying to grab onto this last life-saving straw. Yiqing Luo remained silent for a moment as her breathing paused slightly. I can save you, but after you leave this house, the ending is entirely up to you. She didn't feel that she could bring 30 over ladies and escape from this place. She could save them. But whether they could leave or not, they could only depend on their own ability and fate. After getting the ladies' agreement, Yiqing Luo bent over and untied all their ropes. The ladies forced themselves to calm down. They moved their hands and feet which had been tied for a long time, then looked at Yiqing Luo resolutely. Thank you, miss, for saving our lives. If there's a chance, we will definitely repay you. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. Whether you can leave safely is still a problem. Elder Wu is now refining witchcraft in the courtyard next door, the rest is up to you. Saying that, she quietly approached the door, preparing to leave. Wu Chei followed behind her. Miss, are you here to deal with Elder Wu? Why don't we join hands? Yiqing Luo's gaze swept past her. I'm just passing by, saving them on the way. Wu Chei didn't expect her to reply in this way as he was slightly stunned. And this stunned. Yiqing Luo had already walked out of the room. The other ladies had all fled the house. Whether those ladies could escape or not, this was not something Yiqing Luo could care about. Her vision looked towards Elder Wu's courtyard. Then she headed towards the courtyard. Wu Chei followed up again, his face full of pleading. Miss, since you're willing to save everyone, you must be a kind-hearted person. Please help me. I can't beat her. Yiqing Luo replied very straightforwardly. If you're not Elder Wu's opponent, I can give you a piece of advice. Wu Chei, what? Go back to the witchcraft family and find someone with stronger ability to deal with her. Yiqing Luo's lips curled. Can you move aside now? Wu Chei pursed her lips and a tearful expression appeared on her beautiful face. I don't want to go back to the witchcraft family. I want to prove that I'm about to inherit the witchcraft family not because my father is the leader of the witchcraft family, but because of my ability. So I must complete this mission. I want to capture Elder Wu and bring her back. Wu Chei stubbornly raised her head, her beautiful eyes focused. Miss, as long as you're willing to help me, it's equivalent to helping the entire witchcraft family. The witchcraft family will fulfill any request you have. The woman's tone was sincere. Yiqing Luo raised her brows slightly. Her smile deepened and she slowly shook her head. I'm sorry, I really can't help you with this. She walked past Wu Che and walked away. Miss, I beg you? Wu Che's eyes reddened as he pounced towards Yiqing Luo. Just as Wu Che was about to touch Yiqing Luo, a dazzling red glow emitted from Yiqing Luo's body. Wu Che's entire body was struck by the red light and he fell to the ground. A voodoo goo worm about the size of a fingernail landed beside her feet. Wu Che's face turned pale and blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. She frantically climbed up from the ground and stretched out her hand in an attempt to grab that witchcraft worm. But just as she moved, a ray of black light struck over. That witchcraft worm instantly split into pieces. Wu Che was so shocked that she shrank back and raised her head, staring at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. Why did you suddenly attack me? Dear, this chapter has ended, I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 4652. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she looked down at her condescendingly. That pair of long and narrow eyes glowed. An eerie chill seeped out from it. Perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo's imposing manner was too overbearing. Or perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo's gaze was too terrifying. Wu Che felt as if an ice-cold venomous snake had crawled across her back, before slowly wrapping around her neck. That gaze was extremely horrifying. Wu Che's face turned slightly pale as her slender fingers clenched into a fist as she stared at her unblinkingly. Miss, if you look at me like that, I will be afraid. If you know that you're afraid, then don't come over to court death. Yiqing Luo looked at her indifferently without any expression on her face. Wu Che shrank her neck in fear as she felt an inexplicable chill in her heart. But when she saw that Yiqing Luo was about to leave, she gritted her teeth as she spoke out timidly, Miss, I only hope that you can help me. No other meaning. Yiqing Luo's footsteps paused slightly, looking at the lady who was sprawled on the ground with a pale face and a timid look. She found it funny. Do you think that everyone is an idiot? Wu Che was stunned as her petite body trembled unconsciously. What do you mean? Don't you feel tired after acting for so long? Yiqing Luo's gaze was calm as she looked at her. Wu Che, don't think too highly of yourself. Wu Che sat on the ground as she lowered her head for a long time. After a moment of silence, she then slowly stood up from the ground. She raised her eyes to look at Yiqing Luo. Her face was no longer filled with the pleading expression but was calm. Wu Che frowned as she stared at Yiqing Luo as though she wanted to stare at her. How did you know? Because you're stupid. Yiqing Luo replied impolitely. Looking at the lady's expression changed. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened as though she was ridiculing. Your story is simply too lousy and full of loopholes. How can anyone believe it? What loopholes? Wu Che pursed her lips as her expression turned ugly. I'm not lying, old Wu was indeed chased out by the witchcraft family. Yes, this is indeed not a lie. Yiqing Luo simply didn't intend to leave as she leaned her back against the door and crossed her arms in front of her chest. But you've left out a point. You are not the daughter of some witchcraft family head. You're also someone who was chased out by the witchcraft family head. No, I'm not. Wu Che's expression changed abruptly as he bellowed at Yiqing Luo malevolently. I am the clan leader's daughter. I am the future successor of the witchcraft family. It was those people from the witchcraft family who wanted to deprive me of my rights. For the sake of power, they framed me and Grandma. It's them, it's their fault. This angry roar. The surrounding girls who were quietly trying to escape were all startled. All of them stared blankly at Wu Che and Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision swept past those ladies. He took a step forward. He stood in front of Wu Che. That petite figure emitted an oppressive might that shocked people's hearts. Yiqing Luo's gaze was like the frost that had condensed into ice. I don't really care what your identity is. Yiqing Luo met Wu Che's slightly crazed eyes without blinking as her pink lips curled into a faint smile. Do you know where your biggest problem lies? Where? Wu Che stared at her maliciously. You said. You're the first person to be locked in the room. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers stroked her chin lightly. Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 4653. Wu Che, what's wrong with that? After experiencing the death of so many test goo specimens, batch after batch of newcomers came in, you actually don't have the slightest bit of fear. Yiqing Luo shook her head and sighed. Don't use the excuse that you're the daughter of the head of the witchcraft clan and you're already used to witchcraft as an excuse. Because all the ladies here are not weak cultivators. These profound practitioners are so terrified that they're crying. As for you, you're too calm. Yi Qing Luo's gaze suddenly turned sharp. Your composure, either you have the confidence to make a comeback so you don't need to worry, or you are very clear that old Wu will not hurt you so you have nothing to fear. That sharp gaze caused Wu Chei's body to weaken. However, after you escaped from that house, you directly asked for my help, hoping that I could help you capture old Wu. The smile on Yi Qing Luo's lips was like a blooming rose, revealing a seductive charm. This means that you don't have the confidence to make a comeback. That is to say, the reason why you are not afraid is the latter. Wu Chei was forced to stick close to the door. His breathing was short and rapid. Ha, you're quite meticulous. Wu Chei gritted her teeth and sneered. Yi Qing Luo slowly withdrew her oppressive aura, and between her brows, a layer of laziness once again spread out. You still have a fatal loophole. She chuckled and waved the feather fan at Wu Chei's chest. Since Elder Wu knows that you are the daughter of the head of the witchcraft family, how could he not search you? How could they let you plant witchcraft on your body? Wu Chei had said, I still have a lot of witchcraft goo on me that I can deal with Elder Wu. She probably only felt that there was something wrong with Wu Chei. He would not associate Wu Chei with Venerable Wu. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose. You and old Wu are originally together, right? You disguised yourself as a captured victim just to keep an eye on those girls, in case someone like me appears and rescues them, right? Wu Chei leaned against the wall bit by bit and stood up straight. She smiled and said, You're very smart. Yi Qing Luo chuckled, You're flattering me. Wu Chei's smile became a little more evil. However, you are too confident. Do you think that I left you here just to listen to your nonsense? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. There wasn't a hint of panic on her face, but instead she laughed. Then why do you think I'm here talking nonsense with you? Wu Chei's complacent smile froze at the corners of his mouth. She seemed to understand something, and her expression suddenly changed. Fiercely pushing Yi Qing Luo away, he looked around. There was no sign of a woman in the surroundings. Not a single one of the 30 or so young girls who had been captured had escaped. You? Wu Chei pointed at Yi Qing Luo furiously. It was her. She had deliberately attracted her attention. Then, he created an opportunity for those girls to escape. Wu Chei bit into the pig's fingertips and angrily rebuked, But, you can't escape either. This is not up to you to decide. Yi Qing Luo smiled and blinked her eyes. Then he suddenly took a step back. In other words, it was in the time it took for her to retreat. A profound wave from the corner of the wall, blotting out the sky and covering the earth, directly pressed down. Boom. A loud sound was heard. The place where Yi Qing Luo was standing earlier collapsed into a huge deep pit. And Yi Qing Luo. At this moment she had already retreated to the top of a wall. Chapter 46-54. Her fluttering red dress under the surging profound wave was like a dancing flame, blossoming with dazzling sparks. Her jet-black long hair swayed with the wind. And in front of Wu Chei, a stooped figure appeared. A black cloak covered that small figure. On the other side stood that young man from secluded palace. Grandma. Wu Chei lowered his head as he pursed his lips in guilt. I'm sorry, Grandma, I let them escape. Elder Wu stretched out his hand as he patted Wu Chei's head. Don't worry, those test subjects will not be able to escape. Her tone was very certain. After that, when he looked at Yi Qing Luo, his sinister eyes were filled with ridicule. Young lady, you are really daring, single-handedly, daring to come to my turf to snatch people. That gaze was like a poisonous snake. It opened its scarlet-red mouth, as though in the next moment it would bite her neck. When she was face to face with Elder Wu, Yi Qing Luo felt an enormous pressure from Elder Wu. Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. But on the surface she maintained her calm as her red lips curled slightly, smiling indifferently. Who told you that I am alone? When Elder Wu heard that, his gaze swept across the surroundings. Then he looked at the young man. The young man shook his head. There is no one else in the courtyard. Elder Wu then shifted his gaze back to Yi Qing Luo. Young lady, this kind of lie, it will be seen through. If you are not alone, then how many people are there? Yi Qing Luo took a look behind her. I have so many people here, can't you see? Would I be so silly to come here alone to act like a hero? Elder Wu's expression changed slightly as his sinister gaze stared coldly at Yi Qing Luo. Young lady, don't play tricks. Her black cloak suddenly fluttered. A thick profound yin qi suddenly attacked Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo leaped as the feather fan on her fingertips rotated, as a torrent surged out. Following that, her figure retreated 2 steps. Bam! 2 profound waves collided in midair. It shook the surrounding buildings as it rumbled. The profound waves brushed past, creating intense sparks. At the moment when it exploded, Yiqing Luo was already standing at a place outside the attack range. Venerable Wu's expression changed slightly. He looked up at the young girl on the wall and was secretly surprised. This girl, his strength was actually not weak. It was no wonder that Che-er would suffer a loss at her hands. Venerable Wu glanced sideways at the young man beside him. The man understood and pounced towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as the feather fan in her hands shot out profound rays. Boundless profound light flashed across her fingertips. The young man's ability wasn't weak, but he totally couldn't touch Yiqing Luo at all. Elder Wu shielded Wu Che behind him and glanced sideways at her. When did that woman come over? Grandma, she is. Wu Che stared at the young lady in red. His lips trembled as he said word by word, "She is the one whom Lord mentioned. Yiqing Luo." She was dressed in red and had jet black hair. She was devastatingly beautiful. A red fan twirling at the tip of one's finger could defeat a magnificent army. No wonder that girl could see through her lies at a glance. No wonder that young girl, even though she knew that Ji Yunshu wanted her to stay, she still stayed fearlessly. Because that young girl was Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo, whom even Lord was unable to gain any advantage over. Elder Wu frowned as he raised his head to look at the young girl who had already suppressed the young man. She is Yiqing Luo. Chapter 46-55. Wu Che held Elder Wu's hand tightly. "Grandma, we must be careful. She has people from the witchcraft family around her. Earlier I wanted to take the opportunity to poison her, but she actually destroyed my witchcraft worm. Generally speaking, the witchcraft worm that they refined was indestructible. How could it be destroyed so easily? But earlier Yiqing Luo only used her feather fan and tapped it lightly. Her witchcraft worm had completely exploded." Elder Wu's brows sunk slightly as if he thought of something and said to Wu Che, "Go to the courtyard where Grandma refined the witchcraft worm and bring that pot over." Wu Che was stunned. "But Grandma, the test subject has already run away." Elder Wu's gaze fell onto the young man who had been kicked to the ground by Yiqing Luo as he smiled sinisterly. "Isn't there another one over there? Isn't he Grandma's boy toy?" Wu Che thought that his grandma was very fond of that man. He had not expected that Grandma was actually willing to use him as a test subject. Elder Wu caressed Wu Che's face nonchalantly. "He's just a lackey sent by the secluded palace to monitor us. If he dies, someone else will take over." Wu Che nodded and headed towards the courtyard. After sending the young man flying with a kick, Yiqing Luo's gaze fell onto Wu Che. The direction that Wu Che was heading towards was the direction where Elder Wu refined the witchcraft worm. Just one look and Yiqing Luo already knew Elder Wu's plan. She scoffed lightly as she slowly landed on the ground. Her charming eyes stared at Elder Wu. "Trying to use your witchcraft worm to deal with me? Are you sure that your semi-finished product will succeed? Young lady, I know you are related to the Miaogu family. But in terms of witchcraft poison, the Miaogu family is definitely not as good as the witchcraft family." When Elder Wu mentioned this sentence, his head subconsciously raised slightly. This also showed her confidence in witchcraft worm. Yiqing Luo's fingers lightly tapped on her fingertips as she replied indifferently, "But you are merely someone who was chased out by the witchcraft family, so you are no longer one of them. What happens between the witchcraft family and the Miaogu family has nothing to do with you." These words caused Elder Wu's sinister eyes to overflow with an eerie chill. "Little girl, you're still too inexperienced to provoke me." Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as she looked at old Wu's sinister face under his cloak, as a meaningful look flashed past her eyes. He then probed, "Does the witchcraft family know that you are working for the Palace of Darkness? Or, the witchcraft family kicked you out because you worked for the Palace of Darkness?" The person behind the scenes of the Dark Shadow Palace was best at passing down forbidden techniques to the people he wanted to use, to achieve their own goals. As for this sorcerer elder, he had once used forbidden sorcery to refine sorcery. Could there be any connection between them? "Little girl, are you trying to trick me? Even if I tell you, what can you do?" Venerable Wu laughed coldly, as if he was mocking her with disdain. Venerable Wu was rather magnanimous as he said straightforwardly, "Yes, the heart-devouring goo in your brother Renlong's body was planted by me. Other than me, no one can remove the goo in his body." Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly constricted. Her petite body also tensed up. She wanted to find out the problem regarding Long Yunzhan from old Wu's mouth. The goo in Zhan's body? It was planted by old Wu. Initially when Miao Ji helped her to find out news regarding the heart-devouring goo, she had told her, "Dear, this chapter has ended, I wish you a happy reading." Big smiley face. Chapter 46-56. She wanted to detoxify the heart-devouring goo on Zhan. To detoxify the goo, she needed the person who planted it. Which meant she must let Elder Wu help Zhan to detoxify the goo. What Elder Wu said wasn't wrong. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as her long and narrow eyes swept up a storm. "Why do you want to do this?" The young lady's voice was strangely icy cold. Elder Wu smirked sinisterly. "Who can reject his lord's request?" Elder Wu paused for a moment as his gaze towards Yiqing Luo was filled with contempt and ridicule. "Young lady, don't think too highly of yourself. In the end, the reason why the people around you are in this state is all because of you. His lord's target is you, so Long Yunzhan was planted with the heart-devouring goo and had his memories wiped. Everything was all because of you. If it wasn't for you, how could Long Yunzhan possibly experience all these painful things?" Elder Wu kept on laughing sinisterly. Every single word that came out of his mouth was like a sharp silver needle, piercing into Yiqing Luo's heart. "I remember that human dragon. Back then when I planted the goo on him, he was still a little human dragon and had always been by his lord's side. Later on, that little human dragon suddenly disappeared. Even the heart-devouring goo which I planted on him could not sense it. I thought that little human dragon had offended his lord and was killed by his lord. I'd not expected. His lord had wiped away his memories and threw him into the lower realm, Nirvana. To let a little human dragon, Nirvana, with a brand new identity to grow until today. Do you know what's the most painful thing?" After old Wu asked this question, he looked mockingly at Yiqing Luo whose expression had changed. The sinister smile on his sinister face became even more obvious. "The most painful thing is, Long Yunzhan remembers everything that you had experienced in the past. Remembers the feelings between you. But he had to pick up his weapon and face you." Yiqing Luo's petite figure shook violently as she took a step back. The expression on her face was deathly pale. Her slender fingers clenched tightly into a fist. She wanted to suppress the emotions that were raging in her chest. However, she couldn't control herself at all. He had always been proud of his ability to control his emotions, but at this moment he was completely controlled by his emotions. He had to admit it. Every word that Venerable Wu had said pierced into the point that she was concerned about in the depths of her heart. Old Wu looked at Yiqing Luo's expression as he laughed sarcastically. "I heard from Lord that you value friendship the most, right? So, shouldn't you obediently let him kill you in order for your brother to complete his mission?" As she said that, she raised her withered black hand and touched her half-sunken chin. "Or should I say, you killed that little dragon. This way it can be considered as freeing him and freeing yourself." Bang! The moment the old Wu's voice fell, the girl raised her glowing flame fan, and the sharp edge of the wall suddenly exploded. Ripples appeared in the air. The attack was powerful and domineering. The Venerable Wu arched his body and leaped up like a bat. The wave brushed past Venerable Wu and landed on the ground. A huge black hole was blasted open. "You shut up." The young lady's voice was hoarse, revealing endless viciousness. She stood in the air as her red dress fluttered in the wind. Her slender fair hand held the glowing flame fan as she pointed it at old Wu. "I will not give up on my brother. And I will not give up on myself." This book came from Chapter 46-57. No matter what Zhan chooses, I will not hurt him and I will not let him hurt any of my brothers. He is my brother, I understand him more than any of you. If he really made a move and hurt anyone in the world group, that would be the real pain for him. No matter what you want to use Zhan for, I will not let you get what you want. Yiqing Luo's eyes glowed with determination. Every single word was from the bottom of her heart. Elder Wu listened to Yiqing Luo's words. He went into a blank for a moment before he sneered, "A young lady is indeed a young lady, still believing in the brotherhood." Her eyes and brows seemed to be filled with a large expanse of darkness. A sinister aura spread out in her eyes. Wuxia had already moved that basin over. Elder Wu snatched the basin and stretched out his hand to grab a handful of it. Following that, The black profound yin qi encircled the witchcraft worm and led it directly onto the young man who had been kicked onto the ground by Yiqing Luo. The man's eyes widened as he looked at Elder Wu in terror, his eyes filled with disbelief. After the witchcraft worm entered his body, the young man cried out miserably as he stretched out his hand towards Elder Wu, pleading for help. But Elder Wu didn't show any signs of reluctance or pity. Instead, it was a heartless coldness. Very quickly, the man was like the first young lady who tested the worm, as his entire body turned black. That was one after another witchcraft worm as it started to spread out in his body. The young man's mouth started to emit a beastly howl. His voice was hysterical, as though he was a trapped beast. His body started to climb up from the ground bit by bit. He was as stiff as a mummy. Just like the young lady earlier, both his hands pounded the ground hard, as though he was venting something. This scene caused Wu Che to shrink back behind Elder Wu. Elder Wu patted Wu Che's back lightly as his lips curled into a sinister sneer. "Young lady, let me show you the power of witchcraft worms." She gave the order. That mummy-like man swiftly pounced towards Yiqing Luo. His jet-black body was filled with tiny witchcraft worms. The man's attacks were disorganized, but they were extremely destructive. They exchanged blows. The feeling he gave Yiqing Luo was a wild beast that had escaped its restraints was attacking its prey. The man seemed to have gone mad. After a dozen moves, Yiqing Luo had completely confirmed this matter. The man didn't even touch the corner of her clothes. The entire courtyard was smashed into smithereens. His destructive power was frighteningly strong. Yiqing Luo retreated to the side of the roof, which was still intact, as she squinted her eyes, searching for the fatal weakness. Elder Wu raised his head and looked at her. His face was filled with a sinister smile. "Little girl, you are so loyal. I really want to try. If I put these witchcraft insects on your brothers, what will happen to you?" Elder Wu raised his head and looked at her. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as her 5 fingers gripped the glower flame fan tightly. "I will not give you this chance." "That's hard to say." Elder Wu's eyes lit up as if he had found an interesting toy. Then 5 withered fingers stretched out from the cloak. She seemed to have touched something in the air. Then she pulled it with all her might. "Before this, why don't you try? Are you able to harden your heart to deal with these innocent women?" Looking at Elder Wu's actions, listening to Elder Wu's words. This book came from Chapter 4658. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly quivered, as though she had realized something. She quickly looked around. As expected, the next moment, numerous slender figures flew back from the outside of the wall. After that, one after another, they fell onto the ground. They were the young ladies who had escaped earlier. After falling onto the ground, some of the ladies swiftly climbed up from the ground. When they turned their heads and saw Elder Wu, their expressions suddenly changed. You. What's the matter? Why are we back? Haven't we already escaped?" The ladies were extremely shocked as they climbed up from the ground. Their gazes towards Elder Wu were filled with fear. As they were shocked, as they turned around and tried to escape. But the next moment, Elder Wu's cloak shook. They only felt something cold seeping into their bodies. And then, they lost all consciousness. Yiqing Luo, who was on the roof, stared downwards. Those young ladies had turned into a patch of pitch black. Each of them were like dried corpses as they stood up shakily. Her pupils slowly widened. The anger beneath her eyes was burning fiercely. Her slender fingers clenched tightly. His smooth and round fingertips were deeply embedded into his flesh, leaving behind large patches of half-arc marks. Elder Wu looked at Yiqing Luo mockingly, using words bit by bit to hook Yiqing Luo's heart. "Young lady, these ladies originally didn't need to die so early. But because of you, because of your own decision, because of your self-righteous self-confidence." Her voice deliberately lowered slowly, hoarse and sharp, but it had a bewitching feeling. "Yiqing Luo, they all died because of you. It's you who caused their deaths, it's you who made them become like this." Elder Wu stuffed the basin back into Wu Che's hands. After that, he raised both his hands. A thick, profound yin qi lingered around her palms. Slowly turning into a thin line, it merged into those ladies' bodies. Then his arms moved. Those ladies flew towards Yiqing Luo. Pitch-black faces, stiff like dried corpses. All of them made Yiqing Luo's body stiffen slightly as she suddenly retreated backwards. "Yiqing Luo, you're such a sentimental and righteous person, facing these people who had turned into such a state because of you. Are you able to be ruthless? Venerable Wu's tone was filled with mockery and ridicule. As though he was mocking Yiqing Luo, would she not dare to retaliate because of the so-called friendship? Facing those women they attacked like wild beasts. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as she speedily evaded. The glowing flame fan at his fingertips swept up a powerful current. The dazzling profound waves were like streaks of red light that drew gorgeous arcs as she circulated them. Her hand moved forward. The devouring flame fan flew out from his palm. It formed a whirlwind in midair. The red arc also quickly swam among the women. Quickly they surrounded the women. Old Wu apparently didn't expect that Yiqing Luo would really make a move. However, he was stunned for a while. She laughed out loudly. The affectionate and loyal Yiqing Luo in the end is merely a greedy and cowardly person. Facing these Gu test subjects that became like this because of you, you actually have no remorse at all. Ha ha ha. She laughed loudly as though proving Yiqing Luo's cold-blooded heartlessness. She laughed extremely complacently. He could tell. Elder Wu had once suffered a setback because of the so-called affectionate and loyal people. Chapter 46-59. The young lady's slender fingers closed the glower flame fan abruptly. The majestic dark force exploded with a loud bang. Those ladies who were entangled by the arc of light. They were instantly blown away by the profound wave and fell onto the ground. In just a moment they turned into a pile of white bones. Her actions had no hesitation at all. There was not the slightest bit of emotion on that absolutely gorgeous face. After that, the young lady slowly shot her charming eyes towards Elder Wu. Her pink lips curled into a ridiculing arc. The young lady's clear voice clearly entered Elder Wu's ears. Your method in my eyes is too low level. Did you think that just based on a few words of yours, you can bewitch me? Her smile deepened like a peach blossom, elegant and rippling. You seem to think too highly of me. I don't feel that I'm the one who caused their deaths. That overbearing aura pressed downwards. Elder Wu's expression sunk as he couldn't believe that he had miscalculated. Don't quibble over your actions. Elder Wu gritted his teeth and roared, if it wasn't for your meddling and letting these ladies go, they would at least be able to live for a long period of time. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. They wanted to escape, so I merely lent them a hand. After they leave, their life and death will depend on their own luck. What has it got to do with me? She had saved them, so she had to arrange everything clearly? Helping them to leave that house was a favor. What happened next was their own life. What would happen in the end? It had nothing to do with her. Elder Wu had turned them into puppets controlled by the witchcraft worm. That was their fate. Endangering her life. She took action and killed them. It was merely survival of the fittest. There was nothing to be soft-hearted about. Her eyes glowed faintly as her lips curled into a smile. I'm afraid Elder Wu didn't hear the mastermind from secluded palace talking about me. I have never been a good person. Elder Wu apparently didn't expect his plan to fail. Instantly, he flew into a rage out of humiliation as he directed the other ladies and that young man to pounce towards Yiqing Luo, while she grabbed a bunch of witchcraft worm in her hand as her black cloak moved. She was like a bat as she scurried into midair, taking the opportunity to attack Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was already prepared for old witch's actions. He opened his glowing flame fan and slashed away the puppets controlled by the witchcraft goo. He then leaped into the air. Sogu reading URL. Chapter 4660. That's Granny underestimating the enemy. Elder Wu stared sinisterly at the person who had already disappeared. The expression on his face was treacherous and no one could tell what he was thinking about. Wu Che opened his mouth, but on seeing Elder Wu's expression, he shut his mouth. Elder Wu's fingers tightened bit by bit as he clenched his teeth and sneered, next time I will let her know the power of witchcraft. Yiqing Luo's figure had just left that courtyard and landed on the ground. Her slender waist was hooked by a pair of strong arms and brought into an embrace. An elegant sandalwood fragrance entered her nostrils. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up as her arms encircled the man's neck behind her. You're here. Diamo Xian pinched the young lady's waist. Did you have fun? When did you find me? Yiqing Luo's lips curled into an arc as she leaned forward and touched his thin lips lightly. Diamo Xian held the young lady tightly in his arms. It was when you were preaching to that old woman. The man's strength was a little strong. Yiqing Luo could feel his displeasure right now. She used her head to bump against his chest as she beamed. Don't worry, I didn't talk too much with Zhu Wuxen. You have his scent on you. The man's muffled voice floated down from the top of her head. Yiqing Luo hugged his waist as her chin rested on his chest as she raised her head. You can't blame me for this. He suddenly appeared and abducted me away. Before I could even react, I was already brought here. Along the way, I will definitely be tainted with his scent. Saying that, her little body rubbed against the man's arms for a while. All right, now my body is filled with your scent. That tone was filled with the feeling of coaxing his own war pet. Diamo Xian suddenly locked her waist tightly, not allowing her to move. Stop rubbing. The man leaned against her neck as his hot breath spurted out. His voice was filled with a sexy low charm. Yiqing Luo blinked as her long and narrow eyes overflowed with teasing. Are you sure you still want to hug me? Diamo Xian bit her ear. If you continue, I won't be courteous anymore. Yiqing Luo giggled but still laid in his arms obediently. Until the man picked her up by the waist. Yiqing Luo laid in his arms and pinched his face. It's done so quickly? Whether I'm fast or not, you don't know. Diamo Xian bit her finger. It was very light and ticklish. Yiqing Luo raised her head at him. Are you a dog, keep biting me? Diamo Xian hugged her tightly and leapt up, steadily landing on little Nine's back. He still did not let go of her. He continued to hold her in his arms. As he lowered his head, his low and hoarse voice was transmitted into Yiqing Luo's ears. Just you wait. She gnashed her teeth and threatened in a low, charming voice. This made Yiqing Luo smile even more brightly. The two of them were laughing and fooling around. Little Nine sent them back to the old city. Qiao Jin and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Yiqing Luo safe and sound. Yiqing Luo inquired about the situation earlier. That's about it. After she was kidnapped by Zhu Wuxin, Diamo Xian flew into a rage. The Grand Elder and Long Yunzhan quickly retreated. Diamo Xian followed Yiqing Luo's breathing and headed over. After the few of them settled those people from secluded palace and the Ren family's guards, they returned back to the Gu residence. The Gu residence was after all barbaric blood-bone king's turf, and there were Gu residence's secret guards stationed there. Even if Ren Jianying tried to attack the Gu residence several times, she was totally unable to do so. Yiqing Luo found a chair in the main hall to sit down and immediately waved to Miao Xianxian. Xianxian, come over for a moment. If the anti-theft chapter was unable to be refreshed automatically, she could try moving the book out of the bookshelf and then add it again and it would be refreshed. Moi. This chapter ends viewing starting episode Zue new chapter section please arrive Tang Ke shop. Mobile address. Chapter 4661. Miao Xianxian sat beside Ren Jiaming. Hearing Yiqing Luo's voice, she immediately jumped up and jogged towards her. Miao Xuanxuan's identity had been exposed because of Ren Jianying. The people from the secluded palace naturally wouldn't let her off. Hence, Miao Xianxian followed Ren Jiaming to the Gu residence. Yiqing Luo held Miao Xuanxuan's hand and looked at the young lady's bright eyes without blinking. She smiled. How much do you know about the witchcraft family? Miao Xianxian tilted her head and pondered for a while. Not much, I've heard about it from the elders in the family. Then have you heard of Elder Wu? Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk when she mentioned the two words, Elder Wu. Miao Xianxian nodded. I've heard of it. This Elder Wu is not only famous in the witchcraft family, even our Miao Gu family has heard of him. Tell me about it. Yiqing Luo rubbed the young lady's fluffy little head. Miao Xianxian seriously pondered over the news she had heard before. I heard. Elder Wu was the most outstanding witchcraft master in the witchcraft family and was highly regarded. Even the Miao Gu family had heard of her genius name. But later on, it seemed that something big happened to the witchcraft family. All the equipment used to refine witchcraft and those reared witchcraft were all burnt clean. Yiqing Luo roughly guessed the second half of the story. Then the witchcraft family found out that the person who set the fire was that outstanding witchcraft master. Elder Wu? Yes. Miao Xuanxuan's eyes lit up. Sister, how did you know? I guessed it. Yiqing Luo pulled Miao Xianxian to sit beside her. Continue. Miao Xianxian sat down obediently and continued. Sister, you are half right. The head of the witchcraft family didn't just discover Venerable Wu and set fire to the witchcraft family, she also discovered the reason why she did it. She intentionally lowered her voice and asked mysteriously, Sister, do you know the reason? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Because she wanted to use the forbidden witchcraft to refine witchcraft? Miao Xianxian immediately drooped her head. Sister, how do you know everything? I guessed it. Yiqing Luo rubbed her chin. No matter where it is, the so-called forbidden technique will always be called as forbidden technique, that is a forbidden technique. To make an aristocratic family, to chase the most outstanding person out of the family, it can only be That person has violated the family's taboo. Miao Xuanxuan's head was still drooping, and her tone was not as cheerful as before. Yes. Elder Wu was chased out of the witchcraft family by the clan leader for refining the forbidden witchcraft spell. He ordered her to never return to the witchcraft family again, and, stripped of her surname. Stripped of his surname? Yiqing Luo's brows furrowed slightly. If his surname was stripped, then why was that person still called Old Wu? Yes, the patriarch of the witchcraft family was worried that Venerable Wu would use the forbidden witchcraft technique to do something outrageous after leaving the witchcraft family and affect the reputation of the witchcraft family. Thus, he forbade Venerable Wu from mentioning the witchcraft family after leaving. Miao Xianxian replied. Yiqing Luo seemed to have thought of something as she asked again. Then, when Old Wu left the witchcraft family, did he bring along a young lady named Wu Che? Miao Xianxian thought for a while and shook her head. I've never heard of this name. Chapter 4662. Yiqing Luo propped her chin as she pondered deeply for a moment. Qiao Jin looked at her. Why did you suddenly think of asking about witchcraft families? Yan Xiaoyi's eyes brightened slightly. Could it be that you already know who poisoned Captain? Previously, Mo Yuing had told everyone about Long Yunzhan. Everyone also knew that the goo poison in Long Yunzhan's body was not an ordinary goo poison, but a kind of goo that was refined using witchcraft. Yiqing Luo mentioned the witchcraft family at this moment. It was definitely related to Long Yunzhan. As expected, Yiqing Luo nodded her head slightly. However, her expression was extremely grim. I did see a goo master from the Dark Abyss Palace, but I can't be sure that she's the one who poisoned Ajan. Yiqing Luo's vision fell onto Miao Xianxian as she said word by word, that witchcraft master's name is called Old Wu. Miao Xianxian was stunned. The people surrounding them were also stunned. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk slightly. Venerable Wu admitted everything too calmly. In addition to Miao Xuanxuan's words, she even started to suspect if the witch goo master called Venerable Wu was really Venerable Wu. Those who were chased out by the witchcraft aristocratic families could no longer use their former names, and they had to be stripped of the surname witchcraft. However, Elder Wu and Wu Che had openly adopted the surname Wu. It doesn't matter if that Elder Wu is the one who cast the voodoo spell on Captain. We have to find him sooner or later. Yan Xiaoyi pursed her lips and stood up suddenly. Aren't we rushing to the land domain? Let's go to the earth domain first and let Xianxian return to the Miaogu family to ask about what happened in the past. Ren Jianying of the Ren family was no longer around. On the surface, the entire heaven realm was in the hands of Ren Jianying, but in reality, it was in the hands of the Palace of Darkness. Ren Jianying wanting to attack the land domain was also the idea of the Palace of Darkness. Even if Ren Jianying wasn't there, the heaven realm's plan to attack the earth realm and invade the earth realm would not change. They still had to go to the earth realm to stop the Palace of Darkness plan. Yiqing Luo nodded her head as she raised her hand and rubbed Miao Xuanxuan's little head. Then let's return to the earth domain first. As for the Miaogu family's side, I need you to inquire about it. After all, the Miaogu family was a force in the earth domain. There was still a huge gap between them and the witchcraft family. In addition, the witchcraft clan was also proficient in witchcraft. The Miaogu clan was no match for the witchcraft clan. It was better to go to the Miaogu clan first and figure out the true identity of that Magus elder before making a decision. Earth domain. Ren Jianying heard their conversation and his expression congealed slightly as he stood up. Great bone? Yiqing Luo, have you forgotten something? The gazes of Qiao Jin and the others swiftly turned towards Ren Jianying. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. We'll talk later. Ren Jianying pursed his lips, glanced at them, then turned around and left the main hall. When he reached the door, he stopped and said with his back facing her, I'll wait for you outside. Yiqing Luo stood up. Go and prepare first, we will set off for the earth domain tomorrow. Huang Fusheng and Gu Zixi had long wanted to visit everyone in the earth domain. After exchanging greetings, they held hands and left. Yan Xiaoyi looked outside the door and looked at Yiqing Luo. He doesn't want to leave the heaven realm? Yiqing Luo's brows drooped slightly. It's not that he doesn't want to, but he can't. Chapter 4663. Yan Xiaoyi clicked her tongue. Look at his nervous look, you'd better hurry over. Yiqing Luo bent down and planted a kiss on the man's lips. Then she put a hand on his shoulder and straightened up. Wait for me. Di Zun, who had been soothed by the kiss, didn't get jealous again. Yiqing Luo stroked its fur and walked out of the main hall. Ren Jianying stood at the door with his back against it. He lowered his head and covered half of his face. However, it could be seen that he was not in a good mood. Yiqing Luo walked forward and said, "I will not forget about saving old man Tsang." "Then you're going to the Earth Domain?" Rin Jiaming hurriedly followed behind him. "If you go to the Earth Domain, what will happen to Tsang Lao?" It was until they walked out of the main hall's courtyard when Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks and turned her head to look at him. The young girl's expression was very grave. Her usually enchanting and wanton charming eyes were currently as deep as a deep pool. "Rin Jiaming, you should have heard what I said last time very clearly. You should also understand that old man Tsang's poisoning isn't ordinary. He won't wake up just because you say so." Rin Jiaming's body stiffened slightly. He clenched his fists tightly, and his handsome face darkened. "I know, but you can't leave him alone. It's not that I don't care, but I don't have the ability to wake him up yet." Yiqing Luo's eyes became even more gloomy. "It can be said that compared to you, I hope that old man Tsang can be well. But the prerequisite for old man Tsang to awaken is to gather all 5 Tsang Shui artifacts." She currently had the azure aqua light chain from Rin Jiaming. There were only 4 of them. He was also missing a pair of earrings. Rin Jiaming did not know what to say. After a long while, he finally lowered his head and pursed his lips. "Then, when do you plan to return?" "Everything depends on whether the Earth Realm is able to defend against the Nether Palace's attack." Yiqing Luo shook her head. "The war between the realms cannot be explained in a few words. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness wanted to invade the land. That would depend on whether the heavenly axiom would allow such a thing that destroyed the balance of the realm to happen. Furthermore, although the Earth Realm was below the Heaven Realm, moreover, the difference in strength was huge. However, there were many capable people in the Earth Domain. If the Heaven Realm wanted to fight this battle, it would not be that easy. I'll stay in the Heavenly Realm and take care of the old." Rin Jiaming clenched his fists even tighter. "But I hope that after you return you will wholeheartedly help the old." "I know." Yiqing Luo's words had just landed. Rin Jiaming turned around and left. Yiqing Luo didn't open her mouth to call him. After remaining silent for a moment, she turned around, intending to return to the main hall to look for Dmo Xian. As soon as she put on her disguise, she crashed into the man's arms. Dmo Xian's hand circled around her waist. "Are you done? Are you eavesdropping? He just left and you came out, such a coincidence?" Yiqing Luo raised her head suspiciously as she squinted her eyes at him. Dmo Xian's expression did not change. "Coincidence? As if I'd believe you, you're so bad." Yiqing Luo pouted her lips, not believing his nonsense. Dmo Xian's brows creased slightly as he looked at him. "Rotten old man? Yiqing Luo?" She just felt that it was convenient to say. She didn't want to argue with Dmo Xian on this sentence as she quickly took out the azure aqua light chain and raised it up, waving it in front of Dmo Xian. "I've already obtained the 4th azure aqua god relic. You say the 5th god relic? Where is it?" Dmo Xian's hand, which was clasped around her waist, suddenly tightened. Chapter 46-64. Yiqing Luo was shocked and let go of the azure aqua light chain. "What's wrong? There's something on it." Dmo Xian released her waist as his eyes congealed as he looked at the azure aqua light chain in his palm. As he frowned slightly, "This azure aqua light chain has already been contaminated by the profound yin qi of the Nether Palace." "Pollution?" Yiqing Luo was stunned. No wonder she felt that there was something wrong with the flowing light on the azure water light chain. But he couldn't tell what was wrong. After all, it was her first time seeing the azure aqua light chain's true form. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as her long and narrow eyes squinted. "No wonder. Back then it was too easy for me to get the azure aqua light chain." That Grand Elder was rather annoyed that Rin Jiaming was a waste, but he had no intention to snatch it away. As it turned out, the azure aqua light chain was a bait from the start. Bait to get her hooked. First, he used the azure water light chain to lure her to the old city. It would be great if Rin Jiaming could deal with her. If Rin Jiaming fell into her hands, the azure aqua light chain would be taken away. In that case, he still had a backup plan. If she really formed a contract with the azure aqua light chain and fused with its power, the mysterious yin qi would also follow the power of her azure aqua light chain and enter her body. For her, the secluded darkness palace had really used all kinds of tricks. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as her face revealed a cold smile. Fortunately, Dmo Xian was by her side. Otherwise, he might really fall for it. Yiqing Luo looked at Dmo Xian's tightly clenched palms and revealed a worried expression. "Then? This thing won't affect you?" "It's nothing." Dmo Xian's expression sunk slightly. I'll go remove the profound yin qi from this first, wait for me. Yiqing Luo nodded. I know you're very powerful, but don't force yourself. If you can't do it, we'll think of another way. There's no hurry to use the Azure Aqua Light Chain's power now. Dmo Xian went to settle the matter regarding the Azure Aqua Light Chain. Yiqing Luo asked Qi to bring her to where Old Man Song's body was. Old Man Song lay on the ice bed with his eyes closed, as if he had fallen into a deep sleep. She slowly walked to the side of the ice bed and slowly sat down. Her slender, jade-like fingers lightly stroked the azure dew bracelet. She sighed softly and said, just one more artifact and then you can become a real human. Lass, don't worry. Old Song floated out from the azure dew bracelet. Don't put all the responsibility on yourself. I promised you and Ren Jianying. Of course I have to do it. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly, but, after you become a real person, this azure dew bracelet, won't it have no protector? You will protect the azure dew bracelet, won't you? Old Man Song floated to Yiqing Luo's side and sat down. The illusory body was as light as smoke. Yiqing Luo tilted her head and took a look at him. Of course. Old Man Song leaned his incorporeal head against the ice bed. Looking at the two identical faces on and under the ice bed, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed. Lass, are you tired? The person beside him suddenly asked softly. There was a hint of melancholy in his tone. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes suddenly trembled, the expression on her face slightly stiffened. This was a relative like her elder. In other people's eyes they could only see her bright and beautiful. But only Old Man Song would care about whether she was tired or not. After a long while, her lips curled up and she laughed lightly. Tired? How can I not be tired? But I'm already used to it. Chapter 46-65. Ever since she came to this world, she seemed to be constantly on the move. There were all sorts of things that came one after another. But so what about it? She had been reborn. In this strange world she got to know everyone. She had the kinship, friendship and love that she didn't even dare to think about. What else was there to be discontented with? She had once heard of a saying. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. Her background destined her to be extraordinary. Her ability destined her to take on many things that she was unable to take on. But she had to take on it. This was her destiny. She couldn't avoid it. Lass. Old Man Song's voice was rather light. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes, stretched out her hand and gently held the hand of the person on the ice bed as she said gently, I will not let myself fall. Actually, what that old Wu said was very right. The people around her, all because of her, were schemed against by the secluded palace. And because of her, their lives were in danger so many times. If it wasn't because of her, Long Yunzhan might not have such a fate. Everyone had the possibility to live peacefully and not be like this, wandering from place to place. But even if that was the case, so what about it? She had never regretted appearing in front of the brothers whom she knew, and would never regret becoming their brothers. Even if she had to do it all over again, she would still make the same choice, because they were brothers. So, no matter how tired she was, she would do her best to protect everyone whom she cared about. She would not fall. You lass. Really silly. Old Man Song looked at the young lady, unable to describe the feeling in his heart. To tell the truth, to let me become a real human, to leave you. I really can't bear to. He had been accompanying Yiqing Luo for a long period of time. He had witnessed all of Yiqing Luo's growth. He couldn't imagine what it would be like if he wasn't by Yiqing Luo's side. Yiqing Luo tilted her head to look at him as her gaze was firm. After you become a real human, then you will be able to help me better, isn't it? At least by then, if I suffer any grievances, I can still throw myself into your arms and cry. You should be thankful that you don't make others cry. Old Man Song's mouth was filled with disdain, but in his mind he unconsciously followed Yiqing Luo's words and imagined that kind of scene. Indeed. I look forward to it. Old Man Song sighed softly and used his spiritual body to rest on Yiqing Luo's shoulder, although he could not feel it. But this action, Yiqing Luo understood what he was trying to express. Luo girl, you will definitely become someone stronger than Venerable Sovereign in the future. Old Man Song looked at her solemnly. Yiqing Luo tilted her head and looked at the hand on her shoulder. Stronger than Xian? I'm afraid that even if my mother was alive, she wouldn't be a match for Xian. Her family's Xian was simply a cheat code. It was too heaven-defying. Until now, she still did not know Xian's true strength. Stronger than Xian? I'm not rich, I'll never be rich in this lifetime. Old man Song simply smiled. After the matters in the land have been settled, I will follow that map and search for the tomb of the divine emperor with you. At the mention of the Tianshu map, Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes drooped slightly. After a while she nodded. All right. The divine emperor's tomb, she definitely had to search for it. After all, the divine emperor's tomb was her mother's tomb. And her mother had placed the map to the divine emperor's tomb on her. Chapter 4666. This must be his mother's intention. Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes drooped slightly, as her lips curled up slightly, the arc between her brows was like a rippling beauty. Don't worry about me. No matter what, I won't be fighting alone, right? The girl's voice was clear and calm. It was as if he was just saying something natural. Old man Song gazed deeply at her for a long time. In the end, his eyes rippled with emotion as he slowly nodded, yes. She would never fight alone. It didn't matter if he was in a spiritual body state, or turn into a human. As an elder, he would stay by her side without any hesitation. The man and the spirit body looked at each other and smiled. He then leaned against the ice bed and closed his eyes, enjoying this rare moment of peace and tranquility. An hour later, this peace was broken by Ren Jianming, who walked in from outside. Ren Jianming seemed to be much more dejected. When he saw Yi Qing Luo, his expression was slightly stunned, as though he had not expected Yi Qing Luo to appear here. Why are you here? Ren Jianming took quick steps forward, took a look at Yi Qing Luo, and then looked at old man Song who was lying on the ice bed. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head. I'm going to the earth boundary tomorrow, so I specially came over to bid farewell to him. Ren Jianming responded indifferently. He didn't know what kind of attitude he should use to face Yi Qing Luo, who went back on her words. But Yi Qing Luo didn't stay for too long. He gave Ren Jianming a few reminders and gave him some first aid pills. Then he left the place. Just as he reached the corner, Ren Jianming suddenly said, I, and old Song will wait for your return. This trip. Just how dangerous was the road ahead? No one knew. Perhaps he would die on the battlefield. That also meant that it was very likely that the old man would never be able to wake up. But he was unable to stop Yi Qing Luo from doing what she wanted to do. He couldn't stop it. So he could only choose to believe in Yi Qing Luo. He believed that she would definitely return safely. Yi Qing Luo's footsteps paused slightly as she glanced sideways. Her long and narrow eyes seemed to be condensing a vivid light. She raised her pink lips and said firmly, yes, I'll be back. Definitely. Night. Yi Qing Luo paced around the room with an anxious expression. Chi-Chi lay on her shoulder and stroked her back with her furry tail. Dmo Xian had yet to return. Yi Qing Luo believed in Dmo Xian's ability. However, in the face of the treacherous and cunning palace of Abyss Palace, all sorts of sinister tricks emerged one after another. She was very worried that the Deep Yin Qi wasn't the only pit on the Deep Aqua Light Chain. At that time, Dmo Xian had dragged the Azure Aqua Light Chain away. She also hadn't clearly seen the situation on the Azure Water Light Chain. What if there was another trap waiting for him after he dealt with the mysterious Yin Qi? As time went on, the night grew darker. The more she thought about it, the more uneasy she felt. Master, go to sleep first. When Dizun arrives, Chi-Chi will wake you up. Chi-Chi rubbed her head against her. Master still has to go to the land domain tomorrow. There will be another huge battle there. If you are not in good spirits, you will easily affect everyone. Yi Qing Luo held Chi-Chi in her arms and sat on the bedside. But I can't sleep. There was no news of Dmo Xian at all. How could she possibly fall asleep peacefully? Chi-Chi raised its head, its little tiger face was adorable. Does Master like Dizun very much? The little war pet didn't really understand the taste of love. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly as she placed her chin on Chi-Chi's furry little head. The emotions between her brows became much gentler. Chapter 4667. Like. Very much. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were filled with a faint smile. That was a unique gentle smile towards Dmo Xian. Like how Chi-Chi likes Master? Chi-Chi tilted her head. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly, yes. Chi-Chi made a few soft sounds and rubbed her head against Yi Qing Luo's arms. Then Chi-Chi will accompany Master to wait for Overlord Master. Just as she was saying that, a figure suddenly flashed outside the window. Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up as she immediately got up and greeted him. But the air was not filled with a familiar smell. The joyous expression on her face faded away bit by bit. Bloodbone Barbaric King walked in, bringing along a cold aura of the night. Yiqing Luo looked at his expressionless face and her heart thumped hard. You? Why are you here? Blood-Bone Barbaric King walked slowly to the table and sat down. Following that, he placed something on the table. Under the flickering candlelight, a brilliant necklace, sparkling with a strange glow. Yiqing Luo's body suddenly tensed up. Her eyes stared at the item on the table without blinking. Where is he? Yiqing Luo didn't touch the necklace on the table but looked at Blood-Bone Barbaric King with a sunken face. Blood-Bone Barbaric King's fingertip touched that resounding necklace lightly. He has something on. What is it? He has time to send the Azure Aqua Light Chain to you but has no time to look for me. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips, her voice was very dry. Yes, that necklace. It was the Azure Aqua Light Chain that DMO Xian took away. But DMO Xian asked Blood-Bone Barbaric King to send the Azure Aqua Light Chain back. Then, why didn't he come back? Blood-Bone Barbaric King looked at her calmly. Don't let your imagination run wild, he's fine. If he's fine, why didn't he pass the Azure Aqua Light Chain to me personally? Is he injured because of the Azure Aqua Light Chain? Afraid that I'll be worried so he doesn't dare to come and see me? Yiqing Luo's pink lips were pursed tighter and tighter. Doesn't he know that under the situation where I don't know anything, I will only be more worried about him? Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and strode to the table, holding the Azure Aqua Light Chain in one hand. Bring me to him. This god knew you would be like this. The Blood-Bone Barbaric King was a little helpless. I've already said that I can't help him bring the things to you. You'll think too much, but he seems to have something very urgent, so he could only ask me to bring the things to you. What's the matter? Yiqing Luo clenched her fist. How would this god know what it is? The barbaric Blood-Bone King didn't seem to care. I don't care about his matters. It's just that he asked me to pass this divine weapon that belonged to Fenggu to you, so I helped him run this errand. Yiqing Luo lowered her head and looked at the brilliant light chain on her fingertips. She rushed out of the room and was about to chase after him. The Blood-Bone Barbaric King immediately chased after her and stopped her. We still have to go to the Earth Domain tomorrow. Where are you going? I want to see Xian. I can only be assured after I'm sure that he's all right. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip as her charming eyes were filled with determination. Xian, that idiot, always endured everything just to protect her. He always refused to tell her anything. He's really all right. The Blood-Bone Barbaric King pressed his hands on her shoulders. You don't believe this god? Yiqing Luo didn't say a word. The Blood-Bone Barbaric King said each word seriously. At least, when he passed this necklace to this god, he was all right. At that time he came in a hurry and passed the necklace to this god. He only said one sentence. To let you go to the Earth Domain first. He would come later and left in a hurry. This book came from Chapter 4668. That's right, at that time. I saw a disciple of the Imperial Palace waiting for him. The Blood-Bone Barbaric Monarch added as if he had recalled something. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk. A disciple of the Imperial Palace? DMO Xian left in a hurry with the Imperial Palace's disciples? Did something happen to the Arch Palace? Otherwise, why would DMO Xian not even have the chance to see her? Since the Overlord had asked you to believe in him, you should believe in him. Blood-Bone Barbaric King looked at Yiqing Luo's ugly expression and comforted her. Yiqing Luo shook her head, her slender fingers, one by one, tightly gripped the Azure Aqua Light Chain in her hands. Her eyes were a little gloomy. I will be worried about him. He knows that you will be worried about him, but Yiqing Luo, you should be clear that your responsibility is not only because of your feelings, you are shouldering too many things. Barbaric Blood-Bone King patted Yiqing Luo's shoulder lightly. If you don't need to go to the Earth Realm, this god believes that the Overlord will definitely bring you along to the Imperial Palace to accompany him. But you must go to the Earth Realm and you must go. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped hard. That was right, she had to go to the Earth Domain. It was her unavoidable responsibility. Actually, you don't have to worry. Barbaric Blood-Bone King looked at Yiqing Luo indifferently. His strength is unfathomable, even this god is unable to see through his true realm. After all, the Blood-Bone Barbarian King was someone from the divine world. Even after being sealed for 10,000 years, his own strength was there. However, he still could not see through DMO Xian's profound grade and strength. Even from DMO Xian's body, they could not sense any profound chi fluctuations at all. Under such circumstances, there were only two possibilities. Firstly, DMO Xian was an ordinary person without any profound energy. Secondly, DMO Xian's strength was above him. With DMO Xian's reputation, it was definitely not the first one. Then there was only the second possibility. Go and rest. We still have to go to the Earth domain tomorrow morning. The barbaric Blood King pressed her shoulder and pushed her back to her room. Yi Qing Luo's footsteps walked back step by step. His heart was heavy and uncomfortable. Her Xian. No matter what decision she made, he would support her without hesitation and stand behind her unconditionally. Whenever she needed help, he was always ready to help. But she, even though he had come this far, he had grown to such an extent, she was still unable to help Dimo Xian. I heard the conversation between you and Chi-Chi just now. The barbaric Bloodbone King pressed her onto a chair and sat down beside her. You and Dizun are indeed very close. He paused and seemed to hesitate for a long time before asking, why did you choose to be with him? Regarding the matters of the outside world, the barbaric Bloodbone King did not understand. However, he had heard of His Majesty's name countless times during this period of time. He's always been good. Dizun was famous in the three realms, mysterious, powerful, and lofty. How could he fall in love with a little girl from an inferior world? No matter how devastatingly beautiful Yi Qing Luo was. For people like Dizun, it wasn't like he hadn't seen any ladies who were more beautiful than Yi Qing Luo. But the Overlord had chosen Yi Qing Luo. Out of concern for Yi Qing Luo, the barbaric Bloodbone King felt that it was necessary for him to clarify this matter. After all, such feelings, the disparity was too great, but they loved each other so much. He had no choice but to suspect the Overlord's real motive for Yi Qing Luo. /HTML/book/43/43766/L. Chapter 4669. Perhaps it's because fate has decided it. Cell phone. Yi Qing Luo lowered her eyes as she looked at the azure aqua light chain in her palm, which seemed to be tainted with a man's presence as her gaze gradually softened. From the first time I met him, we were already fated to be together. The first time they met. Then he put his pair of mandarin duck rings on her hands. And because of that, he handed his entire life over to her. This was the fate that was fated. Bloodbone Barbaric King muttered the words fated softly. The expression on his face was a little bitter, as though he had recalled the scenes that year. Yi Qing Luo didn't say another word. She looked at the azure aqua light chain for a long time. Then she slowly wore the azure aqua light chain around her neck. She shut her eyes as she suppressed the surging impulse in her heart. Now that things had come to this, she could only trust Dimo Xian. Trust that after he settled all the matters, he would go to the Earth realm to look for her. Her hand gently caressed the profound phoenix ring on her fingertips. As though through the profound phoenix ring, she was able to transmit her longing to him. I can tell that you really love him. Bloodbone Barbaric King gave a low chuckle. He said love, and not like. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she calmly nodded. Yes, I love him. She raised her hand slightly and pressed her lips on the profound phoenix ring as her voice was gentle as she said word by word. In the past, I never believed in the so-called feelings in this world. But after meeting him, I believe it. No one will be like him, accepting everything about me, and making his biggest concession and change for me. Obviously, a highly respected and secretive existence like Dimo Xian. But time and time again he broke his own bottom line for her. Caring for her, caring for her. Even more so, he placed everyone whom she cared about in his heart. His possessiveness was very strong. He wished to monopolize her. But it was to make her happy. To be able to coexist peacefully with the world group whom she cared about. Everything about him revolved around her. That silly man for her had really sacrificed a lot. A lot. Bloodbone Barbaric King looked at Yi Qing Luo's current expression. From her eyes, one could tell just how sincere her feelings towards Dimo Xian were. Such a gaze. He had seen it in Feng Ji's eyes before. However, he was not the only one who made Feng Gu look at him like that. Looking at the face that was almost similar to Feng Ji's, the barbaric Bloodbone King's eyes gradually became hazy. His thoughts seemed to fly back to that period of time in the past. Thinking of my mother again? Yi Qing Luo tilted her head to look at Bloodbone Barbaric King as her lips curled into an arc. If mother knew that you loved her so much, if she could do it all over again back then, she would definitely choose you. The barbaric Bloodbone King's eyes narrowed. A self-deprecating look appeared on his handsome face. He shook his head. She will only have familial love for me forever. Familial love will never become love. He knew Feng Gu too well. He would never make such a conjecture. Even if he had to do it all over again. Even without a Huang. There would be a second A Huang and a third A Huang. In short, it would never be him. looking at the self-deprecating expression on the barbaric Blood-Bone King's face. For a moment Yiqing Luo didn't know how to console her. As for the relationship between his mother and the barbaric Blood-Bone King, what she knew was only a superficial part of it. Don't look at this god with such a pitiful gaze. The emotions in the barbaric Blood-Bone King's eyes had already regained its calmness as his lips curled slightly. This god already knew the ending, but I have never regretted my own choice. /HTML/book/43/43766/L. Chapter 4670. Even if she doesn't love you? Yiqing Luo asked curiously. Yes, even if she doesn't love me. Blood-Bone Barbaric King's tone was firm. I have hated her for thousands of years, but I have never regretted falling in love with her. That firm tone. That firm gaze. All of them were expressing his feelings. Yiqing Luo stretched her waist, the expression on her face was no longer tensed. All right, you have successfully comforted me, I will not let my imagination run wild anymore. She knew that when Blood-Bone Barbaric King asked her about her feelings towards Dmo Xian, it wasn't just because of his suspicions towards Dmo Xian. After such a long time, Blood-Bone Barbaric King could naturally tell the feelings between Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. Other than doubting Dmo Xian's original intention, the most important thing was to unknowingly comfort her. Since she loved Dmo Xian so deeply, then she should believe in Dmo Xian. Believe that he would not bear to let her be upset. Believe that no matter what, he would take good care of himself. Then he would return to her side safely. Blood-Bone Barbaric King stood up. Have a good rest. Saying that, he left the room. Yiqing Luo hugged Chi-Chi and leaned against the bed for a while before she slowly closed her eyes and forced herself to rest. The next day, the group of people were ready to set off. Other than Rin Jiaming, who stayed behind, everyone else headed towards the Earth Realm. Yiqing Luo instructed Rin Jiaming not to leave the hiding place no matter what. If the Heaven Realm wasn't Rin Jiaming's home ground, they would definitely dig 3 feet into the ground to catch Rin Jiaming. After all, based on Rin Jiaming's rebirth experience, how many times had she wanted to catch Rin Jiaming? She had also said that Rin Jiaming was a variable in the Heaven Realm. The secluded palace would not allow any variable to exist. When the group saw that Yiqing Luo was alone and saw her exhausted look, apparently she didn't sleep well last night, they tactfully didn't mention Dmo Xian. Right, why haven't Master Gui Wu and Zhou Mo returned yet? Yiqing Luo looked at Xiao Jin and asked in puzzlement. It seemed that ever since the Heaven Realm she hadn't seen Gui Wu and the rest. Even her cat had no idea where Zhou Mo had abducted it. With Master Gui Wu and Ghost Bandit around, there shouldn't be any problems, Xiao Jin replied. Indeed, those people were there. Her cat should be fine too. Yiqing Luo directly took out the sacred beast bead in the Gu residence and activated the passageway to the realm. In the Earth domain, the flames of war continued unabated, and killing intent rose and fell. The sky was filled with blood and profound ripples, causing people to be overwhelmed with shock. The minute Yiqing Luo and the others reached the Earth boundary, they were shocked by the scene in front of them so much that they almost couldn't regain their senses. The Earth Realm and the Heaven Realm had already started a war. Furthermore, from the looks of it, it was obvious that the Earth domain was no longer a match for them. Were they trying to destroy the land or invade it? Gu Zixi and Huang Fusheng's faces turned livid. Their eyes clenched tightly into fists, and after exchanging glances with one another, they opened their mouths towards Yiqing Luo. Let's make a trip back to the treasures gathering trading hall first. And the Qiao family. Bloody mercenary group. Looking at the flames of war that filled the sky. The once glorious realm main city was now desolate and filled with ruins. Yiqing Luo looked at the few people behind her as she muttered to herself for some time. Then she opened her mouth to arrange. Jinzi, Xiaoyi, the two of you first protect Shen Shen back to the Miaogu family and ask them clearly about the matter regarding Elder Wu. This might be related to the heart-devouring parasite in Ajan's body. This book came from Chapter 4671. Then what about you? Yan Xiaoyi pursed her lips. Where are you going alone? Yiqing Luo's expression was grave. Don't worry about me, I'll make a trip to the Hell Palace. The Earth Realm and Heaven Realm were fighting. The Hell Palace was a strange existence in the Earth Realm. She wondered if that bunch of lunatics from the Hell Palace would interfere in this war. Now the situation in the Earth Realm is not clear. If we split up, there's a possibility. Qiao Jin's face was filled with hesitation. He who had already reverted back to his original appearance, even if he was frowning, he still had a different kind of handsomeness. Yiqing Luo raised her hand to stop his words. I have a blink movement secret art. Even if the people from the secluded palace discover my existence, they will not be able to catch me. But you guys must be careful. The few of them exhorted one another for a while and went their separate ways. After sending Yan Xiaoyi and the other two off with her eyes, Yiqing Luo followed Dmo Xian's memory of bringing her to the Hell Palace and arrived at the Hell Palace. Compared to the outside world where the flames of war continued, the Hell Palace's side was not affected much. The pitch-black space was filled with a strange evil qi. Yiqing Luo headed towards the pitch-black space and walked for a long distance. Her mind was calculating the exact location of the Hell Palace's door, which appeared out of thin air the last time she was here. She had yet to get close. Suddenly she heard a loud roar reverberating in the space. Who dares to barge into the Hell Palace? Are you here to create trouble? Or are you here to fight with us? Very good. It was a familiar formula. A familiar opening line. Yiqing Luo was completely sure now. This war between the Heaven Realm and Earth Realm. It had no influence on the Hell Palace. The Hell Palace's door opened. An old man rushed out. His body was still the familiar dirty mess, a head of messy hair scattered behind him, giving off a moldy smell. That man rushed to Yiqing Luo, raised the big machete in his hand and chopped downwards. Yiqing Luo. She moved her leg, lifted her leg and kicked that person's body. A bam sound was heard. That man fell heavily onto the ground. F***K. Oh no, help, the person who is causing trouble is too strong. The old man sprawled on the ground. Hell Palace's lord, save me, save me. Yiqing Luo. She didn't use any strength at all, okay? Wasn't her acting a little too much? Following the old man's sorrowful wails. After a while, hurried footsteps could be heard coming from the underworld palace. About 5 unkempt old men rushed out. Aren't those fools fighting with the Heaven Realm outside? Who would come to the underworld palace to cause trouble? The old man in the lead said impatiently. The 5 of them walked out. The old man who was howling on the ground immediately got up from the ground and scurried to the back of the 5 people. It's her. That's her. Coming to the underworld palace alone to cause trouble? He must be an expert. Yiqing Luo, who was alone. Was this the reason why he was acting like a drama queen? In the darkness, the faces of both sides could not be seen clearly. The old man in the lead slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo and was just about to open his mouth. He heard a familiar and clear voice. Old Lai, long time no see. The old man in the lead immediately stiffened. His eyes widened in disbelief as he asked tentatively, Madam? Madam? The man in the lead was Old Lai. The minute he opened his mouth, Yiqing Luo recognized his voice. Old Lai's sleeves moved and lit the candle on the rock wall. Under the dim light, the young girl's beautiful face was slowly reflected in the eyes of the few people present. This book came from Chapter 4672. The red-robed black-haired young lady was dazzling in this pitch-black space. Old Lai rushed to Yiqing Luo. Imperial Madam, is it really you? Why are you here? He kicked away the few old men beside him. Quick, 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 please come in, come in. Yiqing Luo didn't stand on ceremony with Old Lai. She followed behind Old Lai and entered the Hell Palace. In the Hell Palace, there was a treacherous and gloomy atmosphere. Only after a long distance did he light a candle. The dim light made it hard to see the ground clearly. Old Lai was obviously very excited. As he led the way, he kept talking about the current situation in the Earth domain. For example, ever since Yiqing Luo left the Earth domain, Xiao family took over the treasure exchange house. But it was still under Pei Xing's name. For example, ever since Yiqing Luo left the Earth domain, Xiao family passed the election and became without embroiling city's city lord. Another example was that not long later, the entire Earth domain would probably merge into 3 cities. And so on and so forth. Yiqing Luo had been listening quietly. The few old men behind her were also quiet and didn't dare to interrupt Old Lai's words. Until Old Lai finally finished his words, he turned to look at Yiqing Luo and asked curiously, Imperial Madam, didn't you go to the Heaven Realm? Why are you back so soon? How is the Heaven Realm fun? Looking at the old man's excited expression, Yiqing Luo sighed softly, Don't you know very well why I am back? A light voice sounded faintly in the quiet passageway. It gave off a feeling of illusory nothingness. Old Lai's voice paused as he turned his head and walked in front. The flickering candlelight swayed, elongating his figure. Yiqing Luo followed behind and continued, The heaven realm has been invaded by the Dark Palace and they have their eyes on the Earth domain, so I came to the Earth domain. She paused and suddenly took 2 quick steps forward as she raised her hand and pressed on Old Lie's shoulder. The Earth domain has already become like this, I don't believe you don't know. Old Lie stopped and turned around. He tilted his head and looked at the hand on his shoulder. His voice was flat and cold. Yes, I know about the current situation in the land. If you know, why didn't you make a move? Yiqing Luo didn't know if she was blaming or questioning. From the moment she stepped into the Underworld Palace, she knew that the Underworld Palace did not plan to participate in the dispute between the 2 realms. The war could not affect them. They also didn't want to influence the war. In the current situation in the land, this was a strange existence. Lao Lai walked forward again. As he walked, his voice was very calm and indifferent. What? I just don't want to pay attention to this kind of boring fight. To you, the bigger the scene, the more exciting it is, isn't it? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she caught the loophole in Old Lie's words. Lao Lai turned to look at her. Even if you know, don't say it out loud. It's not easy for me to find a decent excuse. Yiqing Luo laughed. You're still the same as before, you haven't changed at all. However, you've changed. Lao Lai looked her up and down. Compared to the last time I saw you, you are even more beautiful. This wasn't a compliment. But Yiqing Luo's temperament was totally different. As though she had been reborn. She gave off a confident and ostentatious feeling. This kind of ostentatious feeling wasn't repulsive. This book came from Chapter 4673. I'm guessing that Madame Empress has obtained an opportunity in the heaven realm and advanced? Old Lai looked at Yiqing Luo as he clicked his tongue and shook his head. Initially when I heard that you were captured, I wasn't worried at all. Anyway, you're a freak. Even if you were captured, you might have advanced or broken through in the process. Cell phone. Yiqing Luo. Are you sure it's not because you have Hell Palace's eyes in the heaven realm? Old Lai replied, even if you've seen through it, it's not easy to pretend to be deep. Yiqing Luo. This old man was still as amusing as usual. The group of them walked into the Hell Palace. When they reached the Hell Palace, the surroundings were no longer pitch black like before. The surroundings were brightly lit and tent-like houses were scattered all over the place. What made Yiqing Luo speechless was outside these messy tents, rubbish, food or messy daily necessities were all piled up on the entire street. Yiqing Luo could even see worms wriggling nearby. Yiqing Luo. Staying in this kind of place, it was no wonder that they looked like unkempt beggars. Had she entered a beggar's den? Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. Along the way, there were quite a number of people who shot strange glances at her. Towards this bright and beautiful lady, they expressed their goodwill. Their beggar's den. Pui, it's Hell Palace. How long had it been since a lady came to them? Not right. It should be. Not a single lady had come. There was no lady who could stay here for a joss stick's time. This young lady was brought here by the Hell Palace's lord? Could it be that she was kidnapped? 10 over unkempt beggars started to flock over. Their faces were filled with curiosity and suspicions towards Yiqing Luo. Some of them went up to Old Lai and those few old men behind him, trying to find out about the lady's identity. Those who went up to Old Lai had a fawning smile on their faces. Hell Palace's lord, don't tell me you saw that we've been alone for too long and specially kidnapped a delicate young lady from the outside for us to satisfy our cravings? While saying these lewd words, that person's gaze swept past Yiqing Luo from head to toe. His blatant gaze made Yiqing Luo frown slightly. A hint of displeasure appeared in his eyes. Lao Lai's face changed and he punched the man in the face. Get lost. I'll turn anyone who dares to let their imagination run wild and disrespect Madame D. The man was sent flying and fell to the ground, crying out in pain. The other dozens of people were stunned. For a moment, no one dared to tease him anymore. Even those dirty looks in his eyes were all retracted. Old Lai looked at Yiqing Luo smilingly. Don't bother about them, they're just a bunch of perverts who hadn't seen a woman for 800 years. Saying that, he led Yiqing Luo to the largest and slightly cleaner tent area. Imperial Madam, please take a rest here. I'll get someone to clean up the place. Old Lai dragged out a wooden stool from the tent and tugged his sleeves as he wiped the stool fiercely before passing it over to Yiqing Luo's side. Yiqing Luo? Actually, she didn't want to sit. She took a look at the dirty and messy environment in the Hell Palace as she rubbed her forehead. No need to trouble yourself. I'm just here to meet you, to understand the current situation in the Earth domain. I have to rush back now. /HTML/book/43/43766/L. Chapter 4674. Imperial Madam, you're going to intervene in the war between the two realms? An old man who was following behind Old Lai understood the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words. Yiqing Luo nodded. After all, in this war I also have a responsibility. Most importantly, her gaze fell on Old Lai. I don't want Tenebrous Palace to get what they want. If Tenebrous Palace really wants to rule the three realms and become the master of the three realms, I won't be any better off. It was very likely that she would be the first target. Lao Lai and the others fell silent. Yiqing Luo spoke out calmly. The reason why I'm here is not to persuade you to intervene in this war. Old Lai looked at Yiqing Luo as he pursed his lips tightly. After a long while, he sighed and said, "Forget it, you will find out sooner or later." He said, "I know what you mean. There is enmity between the Palace of Darkness and our Underworld Palace. Last time, they used the Underworld Palace to kill so many people of our Underworld Palace. Logically speaking, when we see the Palace of Darkness, we should kill them." But, Lao Lai rubbed his forehead. There was some worry on his aged face. It is impossible for the land to win this war. Because they couldn't win. He didn't dare to gamble with the Underworld Palace. The outside world all said that the people from the Underworld Palace were a bunch of lunatics. He was not afraid of death. However, they were not afraid of their own deaths. They didn't want to see their brothers die. Hence, after the representative from the Palace of Gloomy Darkness visited them and made an exchange with them, they considered it for a long time. Or should I decide? He agreed to Palace of Gloomy Darkness request. This battle. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness did not touch them. They would never interfere. He also deliberately forced himself not to care about the war. He listened to the people of Hell Palace talking about their deal with the Palace of Darkness. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't reveal much emotional changes. Everything they said was within her expectations. How many powerhouses are left in the Earth realm? Yiqing Luo understood their actions. If not for the fact that the Palace of Gloomy Darkness's target had always been her. Even if the Palace of Darkness destroyed the world. As long as they didn't provoke her, she couldn't be bothered with them. Lao Lai told him everything he knew in a concise and comprehensive manner. This was because the Heaven Realm, led by the Ren family, had launched an attack on the Land Realm. He had breached the barrier that maintained peace between the two realms. The three main cities of the Earth domain combined into one, with the Qiao family as the leader, to resist them. Although the strength of the Earth Realm was not as strong as the Heaven Realm. But everyone wanted to protect their home. How could he be willing to give in so easily? In addition, there were many otherworldly experts and various forces in the Earth Realm who had joined. He also heard that the Qiao family had sent an invincible 100-man team. He actually spent a full 2 days with the Heaven Realm. However, the Earth Realm had suffered heavy losses. It was very likely that he wouldn't be able to last more than 3 days. Hearing the figure given by Old Lai, Yiqing Luo's expression congealed slightly. The number given by Lao Lai must have been a combination of many factors. The Earth domain probably wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. Looking at Yiqing Luo's tightly knitted brows, Old Lai consoled her. Now that you're here in the Earth domain, perhaps the time can be extended by another day. If the Overlord is here, then there's a possibility that the Earth domain can be saved. Yiqing Luo's brows twitched slightly. He has something on. Only a few friends and I are here in the Earth domain. Don't tell me. Imperial Madam hasn't established your own force in the Heaven Realm? Old Lai asked hesitantly when he heard that. Chapter 4675. Yiqing Luo shook her head. No. Lao Lai was silent for a while before he continued. Actually, there is another important reason why we agreed to the Palace of Gloomy Shadows request. He looked at Yiqing Luo as he said word by word, I'm guessing that the mastermind behind the secluded Darkness Palace is possibly from God Realm. Immortal world. For them. He was a godlike existence. The Earth Realm could hold out against the Heaven Realm for a day or two. However, if the immortal world were to make a move, no matter if it was the Earth Realm or the Heaven Realm, they would not be able to withstand a single move. This was the God Realm. But, anything related to the God Realm was limited to legends. That was because it had been a very, very long time since anyone from the realm of the gods had appeared. After Old Lai said this, he secretly stared at Yiqing Luo's expression. But when he saw Yiqing Luo, she didn't look surprised at all. You knew about it long ago? Yiqing Luo was indeed not surprised. Guesses about the identity of the person behind the dark palace. She and Dmo Xian had already guessed it a few hundred times. Basically, it could be confirmed. They were people from the God realm. Moreover, it was very likely that it was someone from 10,000 years ago before the Divine Emperor passed away. You know that the mastermind behind the Nether Palace is from the God realm, but you definitely don't know that this war is not only because of the mastermind behind the Nether Palace, but also because of a person from the God realm, right? Old Lai lowered his voice. More than one? That was to say, apart from the people behind the Dark Palace. Were there other people from the divine world who had interfered in this matter? Yiqing Luo's eyes changed slightly. Old Lai chuckled. Then, word by word, he said in an incomparably clear voice, "It can be said that this war is actually a war that the God realm has tacitly agreed to. This war isn't started by the Palace of Umbra. It started by the God realm." Divine realm? This news made Yiqing Luo's composed expression change slightly. What you mean is, the one who wants to become the master of the three realms is actually God realm? The divine world wanted to unify all the planes? Yes. Lao Lai showed a rare solemn expression. This matter involves more than just the personal grudge between us and the Palace of Darkness. No matter how much they resisted, there was no way they could fight back against the God world. Are you sure these news are true? Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips as she asked in a deep voice. I'm not sure. I don't have any actual evidence. Lao Lai shook his head. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath. In her mind, she sorted out all the information that Lao Lai had told her. He suddenly felt a headache. The Palace of Darkness was pushing her too hard. But at the same time, she was also forcing the Palace of Darkness very hard. One was the Dark Palace. That was enough to make them battered. Who would have thought that it would involve the God realm? If what Old Lai said was true, the God realm had tacitly agreed to this war. If she tried to stop him, that would make the entire God realm their enemy. God realm, in Yang Qing's world. The world she was trying so hard to climb, what a headache. The tiredness from not having a good rest last night arose spontaneously. Yiqing Luo's slender jade-like hand rubbed her aching brows. I will remember everything you said. She waved her hand. You guys continue to hide, I have to make a trip to the Qiao family. You still decided to intervene in this matter? Lao Lai was stunned when he heard Yiqing Luo's words. Yiqing Luo had already walked back to the way she came, her clear voice was filled with irresistible charm. If I don't intervene, will the Palace of Darkness stop? Even if it is related to the God realm, I must take part in this war. Dear, this chapter has ended, I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 4676. If the person behind this is someone from the God realm, you have no way to go against him, are you still going to go? Old Lai asked again. Yes. Yiqing Luo replied without hesitation. If the person behind this is really related to the God realm, I will skin that God realm alive. Old Lai didn't say another word. After Yiqing Luo left the Hell Palace, she headed straight for the Qiao family. The entire territory had almost turned into a pile of ruins. The flames of war raged in the sky. Blood stained the ground. The howls of the war pets were deafening. It was a horrible sight. Yiqing Luo sat on Chi-Chi's back and soon arrived at the Qiao family. The Qiao family was considered as the only complete mansion in the entire without embroiling city. To be more precise, within a radius of 500 meters around the Qiao family's mansion, everything was still in its original state. 500 meters away, there were the flames of war in the ruins, and smoke rose from all directions. Because the Qiao family's mansion was not far from the battlefield, it could be said that all the forces who participated in the war were resting and replenishing at the Qiao family's mansion. When Yiqing Luo rode on Chi-Chi and landed at the entrance of the Qiao family's mansion, it scared the cultivators stationed there. One by one they held spears and surrounded Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo looked around and got straight to the point. I want to see the Qiao family's patriarch. The cultivators' faces congealed as they looked at this young lady vigilantly. Who are you? Why do you want to see our city lord? Go tell the Qiao family's patriarch that Di Luo is back. Yiqing Luo explained indifferently. The cultivators looked at each other in dismay, feeling somewhat suspicious. Someone was about to go over to inform. Then he heard a delicate and cold voice shout, Miss, what kind of place do you think the Qiao family is? Do you think you can see the city lord Qiao whenever you want to? Following that, a lady walked out of the Qiao family's mansion. That lady, even in the midst of the war, was still dressed up exquisitely. Her hair was combed into a complicated and exquisite style with a pearl tassel, swaying as she walked. She was dressed in a long dress, embroidered with exquisite peonies, extremely gorgeous and eye-catching. When they saw that person, the Profounders instantly put away their weapons, bowed slightly towards that person and called out respectfully, "Lord Profound Maiden." The woman raised her chin arrogantly, her eyes filled with arrogance. "This person is obviously sent by the enemy to disturb the morale of the army. Take him away and kill him." She swept a disdainful glance towards Yiqing Luo's direction. But when his gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo obviously felt the jealousy in the lady's eyes. Yiqing Luo touched her own face in understanding. Her fair fingers rubbed her chin for a while. She lazily stroked Chi-Chi's fluffy fur and the corners of her mouth curled into a cold smile. "Miss, although I know that my face is indeed devastatingly beautiful and can cause chaos in the hearts of the army, but you don't have to say it out loud." She purposely lengthened the last syllable. She chuckled softly, and her eyes were incomparably bewitching. "I am thin-skinned. I'll be shy." The surrounding Profounders were speechless. "What do you mean by shy?" They couldn't see any shyness on this girl's face. She was really narcissistic. That lady's expression sunk as the malevolence in her eyes deepened. She muttered softly, "Shameless slut." Following that, she stared at those Profounders, still not dragging her away. The Profounders took a look at the lady and adjusted their states. They raised their weapons again, aiming at Yiqing Luo. "Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading." Big smiley face. Hurry up and inform City Lord Xiao that the red-clothed battle god has returned. There is hope for the earth. There is hope for the earth. All of the profound practitioners were shouting red-clothed war god in excitement. The woman stood to the side like a clown. Her face was filled with shame and anger. Just then a voice came from afar. "What's all this noise about? Are you all in a hurry to die? Why are all of you shouting? City Lord Xiao is here. City Lord Xiao, come over quickly, look who's here." A group of cultivators swarmed towards the direction of the voice. Then they pushed City Lord Xiao Jingming in front of Yiqing Luo. "Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading." Big smiley face. Chapter 4678. The 34 to 35-year-old man looked much older now. His face was filled with exhaustion. His eyes were bloodshot. Apparently he hadn't rested for a long time. When that pair of bloodshot eyes fell onto Yiqing Luo, the young lady's lips curled upwards as she smiled lightly. "City Lord Xiao, long time no see." Xiao Jingming went into a daze for a moment. Following that, he almost jumped up as he stared at the young lady in front of him with wide eyes. Imperial Madam. Imperial Madam. You're here." He excitedly rushed to Yiqing Luo as he sized her up from head to toe. "Not an impersonator, not a fake. Imperial Madam, why are you back?" That look totally didn't look like a dignified and imposing city lord. "Congratulations on becoming the Lord of the Three Cities." Yiqing Luo nodded as she smiled. "Yes, Lord of the Three Cities." The current Earth realm no longer had the distinction of three cities. Patriarch Qiao had directly upgraded from Patriarch Qiao to City Lord Qiao. And after the three cities merged into one, the name was still without embroiling city. As for the reason, Xiao Jingming was too lazy to think about it, so he directly used the name of the city he was in. City Lord Xiao's face was filled with joy. "This rascal will definitely be very excited to see you. Let's go in and meet the big guy." Saying that, City Lord Xiao excitedly pulled Yiqing Luo as they walked into the Qiao residence. When they passed by that lady who was addressed as Mysterious Maiden, their footsteps paused slightly. That lady was about to open her mouth to complain to City Lord Xiao. But she heard a young lady's clear voice asking, "City Lord Xiao, who is this lady?" City Lord Xiao glanced at the woman and said, "She is the mysterious lady that the Linglong Palace Hall has groomed. She is also the only mysterious lady left in the Linglong Palace Hall. This time, she specially brought the Linglong Palace Hall's forces to participate in the war." After a simple explanation, he continued to pull Yiqing Luo forward. "Don't bother about her, let's go in first and give everyone a surprise." That unimportant tone was like a heavy slap on that lady's face. Linglong Palace. Mysterious Maiden? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly as she gave that lady a meaningful look. She had thought that the Linglong Palace had been completely destroyed after she had caused a ruckus at the Linglong Palace and exposed the barbaric Blood King's true identity. Who would have thought that the Linglong Palace still existed? However, the barbaric Bloodbone King did not seem to be in charge of the Linglong Palace anymore. Which faction did the Linglong Palace Hall's forces belong to? City Lord Xiao urged anxiously. Yiqing Luo didn't think any further as she retracted her sizing gaze and followed City Lord Xiao towards the main hall's courtyard. As he walked, he shouted at the top of his lungs, "Come and see who I've brought for you." There were many people standing in the courtyard of the main hall. There were also a few others sitting at a stone table discussing something. When Yiqing Luo was pulled in by City Lord Xiao, when he came face to face with a courtyard full of people, in an instant the entire noisy courtyard fell silent. "Qing Luo? Madam Qing Luo! Madam Qing Luo!" Shouts after shouts broke the silence. Some of them couldn't help but had red eyes. Even their voices were filled with choking sobs. "Madam Qing Luo." Finally, someone couldn't control himself as he dashed towards Yiqing Luo, hugging her tightly. One person moved. 10 over people swarmed forward. City Lord Xiao and the group of cultivators behind him were all dumbstruck when they saw the scene in front of them. "Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading." Big smiley face. Chapter 4679. 10 over young men and young ladies surrounded that red-robed young lady, bawling their eyes out like children. This scene. It really made one unable to relate. When they were on the battlefield, that austere, ruthless and decisive look. At that time, when they saw this group of young men and young ladies, they were still astonished at their maturity. They felt that they totally didn't look like children of this age. Even when they were facing them, they were all extremely mature. But at this very moment, in front of the young lady, they revealed the emotions that they should have at their age. As though they had finally found the fulcrum that they had been working hard on all along. That red-robed young lady was the fulcrum of this group of young men and young ladies. City Lord Xiao and the cultivators behind him exchanged glances. Then he quietly retreated. This rare warmth was left to them. Yiqing Luo's current feelings were complicated and touched. He looked at the familiar faces in front of him, which had obviously grown up. His heart felt as if it was being pressed down by something. Very warm. It was so warm that her eyes turned red. In her ears she could hear their voices calling out her name. Yiqing Luo's lips slowly curled upwards. His gaze slowly swept across the familiar faces in front of him. A smile blossomed on her lips. It was filled with tears, but it was extremely beautiful. "Brothers of the World Group, I'm returning to the group." The young lady's clear voice paused after every word, sonorous and forceful. It made everyone's eyes turn red again. After that, one by one they stood up. All of them were in line with Yiqing Luo's training in the past, standing in a straight line. Then one by one they opened their mouths. "The World Group Bei Ming Lu Lu. The World Group Ni Ruo Pan. The World Group Dan Bai Shi. The World Group. The World Group." One by one the young men and young ladies started to report their names. Their voices were loud and clear, filled with passion. Until the last person reported. The person sitting by the stone table took small steps as she walked step by step to the front of the group. Pink dress, expressionless, lowly raised her head. The little person used a flat voice as she said word by word, "The World Group Mo Yuing, the World Group Xiao Jin, the World Group Yen Xiao Yi." She paused for a moment and continued, "The World Group Group Leader Long Yun Zhan. Return to the team." The last two words came out of her mouth. The eyes of the dozens of boys and girls in front of him reddened again. Yiqing Luo slowly walked towards them and stood beside Mo Yuing. He turned around and looked ahead. There was a hint of emotion in the girl's voice as she sobbed. "The World Group Yiqing Luo. Everyone has returned." Everyone's throats tightened and tears streamed down their cheeks. For a moment they were speechless. It was as if the scene of them fighting side by side in the past appeared before his eyes. Everyone fought together for the honor of the group. He fought to protect the people around him. Fight for yourself. Then, in order to catch up with Yiqing Luo's footsteps, in order to continue fighting side by side. Everything I've been through. It was a memory that they would cherish for the rest of their lives. They had finally come to her side. They had finally fulfilled their promise. Finally they could once again stand together and fight side by side. This was the agreement of the World Group. This was their agreement. Yiqing Luo stood ramrod straight. She could clearly feel the burning gazes behind her. The sour feeling in her nose made her eyes turn even redder. She shut her eyes forcefully. Following that, her lips slowly curled upwards, revealing a radiant and warm smile as she slowly turned around to look at everyone. Dear, this chapter has ended. I hope you enjoy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 4680. The young lady's smile was peerless, so bright that nothing could compare. Her voice was clear and filled with power. Brothers, I'm back. As though everyone had returned to the past. That period when they were still in devil class, fighting together. Proving themselves together. Taking down the glory that belonged to them together. Building a mercenary group that belonged to them together. Growing together on the path of the strong. Together. There were too many shared memories. As though it seemed like it had happened yesterday. Although they looked tired, they were full of energy and had clearly matured. Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with emotions. Everyone, for her, risked their lives to come to the Earth Realm. For her, they participated in the battle between the Earth Realm and Heaven Realm. The group of them huddled together, feeling touched. After a long time. Then they regained their senses. Yiqing Luo pulled the group of people and sat down directly in the courtyard. She surveyed the surroundings. Devil classes students, almost all of them were here. There were also more than a dozen strangers. Baiming Lulu immediately explained, after you left, there were quite a number of people who wanted to join the world group. After the group leader and everyone's screening, we recruited less than 50 new members. A portion of the members had just gone to the battlefield. These members are back to rest. Even though they had never met before. But it was because of the relationship between the entire group. They felt touched. Where's group leader? And why didn't Ziqing and the rest come to look for us? Mo Ying grabbed Yiqing Luo's hand and shook it, blinking expressionlessly as she asked. Mentioning group leader and the others. Everyone quietened down. Didn't group leader and vice group leader come to look for Madame Qing Luo earlier? Why didn't they follow Madame Qing Luo? Yiqing Luo's smile suddenly congealed. The expression on her face slowly sunk. Everyone saw this and their hearts tightened as their eyes filled with panic. What's the matter? Is it group leader and the rest? Baiming Lulu's face turned slightly pale as her tone became cautious when she asked. The joy of their reunion just now was washed away in an instant. Yiqing Luo shook her head. I asked Jinzi and Xiaoyi to help out with some matters. They might be back within these 2 days. She paused for a moment. Her pink lips were a little dry as she pursed them before continuing, but, Ajan He, Commander, what's wrong? Everyone only heard the first 2 words and hurriedly interrupted. Baiming Lulu grabbed Yiqing Luo's arm. Everyone's breathing stagnated, and their fingers unconsciously tightened. Don't be anxious. Yiqing Luo gently patted Baiming Lulu's hand. Ajan, he's fine for now at least. For now he's fine. Everyone's face turned pale. How could they not be worried? For a moment, everyone was asking about Long Yunjan's situation. Yiqing Luo gave a concise and comprehensive explanation. However, he did not exaggerate the seriousness of the matter. When everyone heard this, there was another moment of silence. They respected their regiment commander. He had suddenly become a member of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness? Why did their regiment commander have so many identities? A moment later, it was a human dragon with formidable strength. Then he became a member of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. They and the Palace of Gloomy Darkness were mortal enemies. The leader was from the Palace of Darkness. Wouldn't they have to meet their regiment commander on the battlefield? Or perhaps, the death choice question had appeared? Choose the regiment commander or Madame Qing Luo. Choose one out of the 2. Chapter 4681. Everyone was silent for a long time. For a long time, he was unable to regain his senses from Yiqing Luo's words. After a long time, Mo Ying slowly raised her head. Her eyes looked at Yiqing Luo without blinking as she asked in a flat voice. The current group leader, if she saw all of us, would she also take action? Yiqing Luo remained silent for a moment, not wanting to lie to them. Yes. If she lied to them to make them feel better. At that time, if they really fought against Long Yunjan, it was easy for Long Yunjan to injure him. Long Yunjan had really hurt any of them. Not only was the world group injured, Long Yunjan probably wouldn't be able to forgive himself. Everyone's faces froze and after a long while they slowly lowered their heads. Their faces were filled with an indescribable sense of loss. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a smile as her voice was gentle. At least what we can confirm now is that Before the Palace of Seclusion's motive is achieved, Ajahn will be fine. Then he said word by word confidently, I will have Ajahn return to our side once more. I will have the Ajahn that belongs to us return once more. Everyone's eyes narrowed slightly. Following that, his unwavering gaze looked towards Yi Qing Luo. As long as it was something that Madame Qing Luo said, then it will definitely come true. Because Madame Qing Luo would definitely work hard for what she had said. They believed it. The sorrowful atmosphere caused by Long Yunzhan gradually warmed up. Dozens of people were telling each other about the recent events. The entire courtyard was bustling with noise and enthusiasm. He didn't notice either. Outside the courtyard stood a petite figure. The woman in the light blue dress clenched her fists tightly as she glared at the joyous scene in the courtyard. His face turned red. She was embarrassed and annoyed. Yi Qing Luo's appearance had turned her into a fool, a joke. It was as though Yi Qing Luo had given her a tight slap on her face. It was very embarrassing. Initially when he first met Yi Qing Luo, it was because he was jealous of her gorgeous looks. But now, he hated her from the bottom of his heart. He couldn't wait to slash Yi Qing Luo's hypocritical face. What red-clothed god of war. At the end of the day she was just a woman who relied on Di Zun to become famous. Pretending to be a god of war? Especially, when she looked at the courtyard she saw the young men and women who were clearly outsiders, and even treated her coldly when she took the initiative to befriend them. At this moment he actually respected and valued her as if she was a god. There was an indescribable twist in her heart. Jealousy disfigured her. At night, with Yi Qing Luo's arrival, City Lord Xiao organized a simple banquet in order to let the various powerhouses in the Earth domain get to know Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo actually rejected it. She was here to fight. What banquet? However, City Lord Xiao was very insistent. After all, the moment Yi Qing Luo arrived, she would be the main force of this battle. The people of the major forces had to recognize her. She also had to remember the big shots of the major forces, to prevent any accidents from happening. Although it was called a banquet, it was actually just a gathering of the big shots of the factions that were still stationed in the land domain to have dinner together. Dinner was a bowl of cold water and 2 steamed buns. Not even a mouthful of porridge. Now that the war was going on, resources were being consumed very quickly. Naturally, no one would waste it. Yi Qing Luo had just reached the place where the banquet was held, which was the main hall of the Qiao residence. She saw a gorgeously dressed mysterious maiden standing at the entrance, raising her head in anticipation with a bashful look, as though she was waiting for something. When she saw Yi Qing Luo, her expression sunk slightly as she shifted her gaze away, as though she didn't want to see Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 4682. She didn't want to create any trouble. Yi Qing Luo naturally couldn't be bothered about it. She was feeling happy about her reunion with her brothers. She didn't want to spoil her own mood because of an unnecessary person. But the truth was, Yi Qing Luo didn't want to bother about it. But she couldn't avoid it. Just as Yi Qing Luo walked past Mysterious Fairy and was about to enter the main hall, she heard the lady beside her exclaiming in surprise, "Brother Ian, you're here." The lady's eyes shone brightly as the blush on her face deepened. Immediately after, she dashed over to that side. This dash collided into Yi Qing Luo. The force was extremely strong. It made Yi Qing Luo's wrist hurt a little. She furrowed her brows and pushed him away impatiently. The lady's body flew out directly as she fell heavily onto the ground. Immediately after, she cried out in pain as she held onto her chest and slowly propped herself up with an extremely painful look. What's going on? What's going on? In the main hall, various powerhouses were still discussing about Yi Qing Luo's return. Suddenly hearing the commotion outside, all of them thought that it was an enemy attack as they flew out. "Miss Mysterious Fairy, what's wrong with you? Who hurt Miss Mysterious Fairy?" Some powerhouses went up to support the lady. The lady's beautiful eyes blinked as she pointed at Yi Qing Luo in an aggrieved manner. It's her. I don't know why she suddenly made a move on me." Everyone looked towards the direction where the lady was pointing. What entered their eyes was an alluring young lady dressed in a red robe. Instantly, all the hands which were going to support the lady stopped. The people from the various factions looked at the woman with complicated expressions before looking at the calm and composed young girl. Following that, they slowly retracted their hands and took 2 steps away from the lady. That action was obviously to draw a line with her. The lady's face turned red as tears started to flow. "What I said is true. Brother Ian can testify. Big Brother Ian saw it clearly just now. Everyone's expressions turned even more awkward. The lady looked at Yiqing Luo in grief as she put on an extremely aggrieved look. "Brother Yin, help me speak up, was she the one who pushed me?" Yiqing Luo's vision fell onto the man not too far away. The most eye-catching thing was still the man's long silver hair. He was dressed in black and had silver hair. He was extraordinarily handsome. That face was as stunning as ever. Whereas the man who was being stared at by the lady, who looked as though he was begging for love, didn't even bother to take a look at that lady as his gaze was fixed on Yiqing Luo. Soon after, his thin lips twitched and his voice was slightly gentle. "Long time no see, Ah Luo." Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she waved at him. "Eldest young Master Qiao, long time no see." The two looked at each other and smiled. That smile was like a piercing needle in the woman's eyes. The aggrieved look on her face disappeared. Originally he just wanted to make use of Yiqing Luo, to injure her. That way Qiao Yinyan would be able to take her to the hospital. She could also make use of her charm to make Qiao Yinyan fall in love with her. At the same time he could also let the people of the major forces know. This bitch is just a good-for-nothing who relies on his majesty. But, no matter how much the woman planned in her heart, she couldn't accept the truth in front of her. Brother Yin knew that bitch. Moreover, their relationship wasn't bad. Her brother Yin was extremely cold in front of anyone. Only when facing that bunch of people from the world group would he be slightly gentler. But Chapter 4683. It must be that slut who seduced Brother Yin. The woman clenched her teeth tightly as she was filled with resentment. Just as she was about to open her mouth to let others notice her, standing not too far away, a certain powerhouse persuaded in a low voice, "Miss Profound Maiden, perhaps you have some misunderstanding towards Madame D. Based on Madame D's character, if she wants to do something, she will absolutely not conceal it, nor will she deny her own actions. Not to mention that Madame D has no interest in making a move against you. Even if she did, I'm afraid no one in the entire Earth domain would say a single word." That person paused for a moment as he continued in a ridiculing tone. "If Miss Profound Maiden doesn't want to embarrass yourself further, then it's best that you stop your own thoughts." Saying that, he left the woman's boundary. The woman was so infuriated that her face turned green and white. How could she not tell that person was ridiculing her? What was a small broken powerhouse? How dare she ridicule her, the dignified Ling Long Palace's Miss Profound Maiden? The woman was furious and annoyed. However, she didn't bother about the woman's interlude. Yiqing Luo and Qiao Yinyan stood side by side as they walked directly into the main hall. A group of people from various large powerhouses entered as well. Yiqing Luo's position was arranged next to City Lord Qiao. Dragged by City Lord Qiao, Yiqing Luo got to know quite a number of powerhouses' big shots. Yiqing Luo was then free. She slipped over to her own brother's side. Anai Ruopan leaned forward with an obvious teasing smile on her face. "I heard that you've been eyed by Chu Zhishang earlier?" The group of brothers came later, so they missed the wonderful scene just now. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as she knew that the Chu Zhishang she mentioned should be referring to that Miss Profound Maiden. "Have you realized how hateful that Chu Zhishang is?" Bei Ming Lulu also leaned over as her lips twitched with a look of disdain, always relying on her identity as Ling Long Palace's miss to act high and mighty in front of us. Sigh. If it wasn't for the Earth domain, I wouldn't put up with that temper of hers. The World Group's members had a rather deep grudge towards that Miss Profound Maiden. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled as her gaze fell onto Qiao Yinyan as she gave a teasing smile. "That Chu Zhishang should like Yinyan, right?" Right. Big Brother Yin is always chasing behind young Master Qiao." Anai Rupan rolled her eyes. Everyone can tell that Shadow is the only one in young Master Qiao's heart. Qiao Yinyan sighed helplessly when he heard their teasing. "I don't want to be bothered by that kind of person either. If she comes looking for me, I'll have to explain everything to her." The group of people laughed even louder. Yiqing Luo sat by Qiao Yinyan's side and took a look at the silent little Lolita who was gnawing on her steamed bun in the crowd. "You and Shadow, what's the progress now?" Even Qiao Yinyan had gone to the Nirvana realm for the sake of Shadow. The Shadow was in a state of lacking a soul. Then he should have been moved, right? Qiao Yinyan shook his head. The expression on his handsome face was very indifferent, but Yiqing Luo could see his tenderness towards the Shadow from his brows. "She still can't remember me, but it doesn't matter. I can wait for her." Yiqing Luo patted his shoulder. "Actually, it's not bad to let her fall in love with you once again." Qiao Yinyan laughed lightly but didn't reply. "The both of you, It's better not to put your arms around each other's shoulders. Look at that pair of eyes, I reckon they have the heart to tear you into pieces. Enai Rupan came over and knocked into Yiqing Luo, reminding her with her peripheral vision. Following Enai Rupan's line of sight, Yiqing Luo saw a seat outside the crowd. Miss Profound, who was also Chu Zhishang, sat there, looking at their direction with a venomous gaze. Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. *0 You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.